Please rise for invocation by Pastor Austin Trammell of Salty Church in New Smyrna Beach. Before you begin your invocation, I appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.
But I wanted to, if everybody would keep in their prayers, we lost Corporal Marjorie LaPierre last week, one of our longtime VIPs, volunteers in police services. She worked in records. She's been doing that a long time. She was a VIP of the fourth quarter last year. She was also a member of the Red Cross Disaster Recovery Team. And then, of course, she volunteered as a VIP with her husband, Curtis. And we want to keep him in our prayers as well.
Okay. Thank you. Let's pray. Father God, we first of all just thank you for being the creator and those that you've created, all of us in here for a purpose. Father, I thank you for Port Orange and this beautiful city that a lot of people get to call home. Lord, and for the leaders standing in front of me and those of us behind me, Lord, that decisions will be made tonight to impact our future. So I pray that your will would be done in those situations. And Lord, for our friend that's lost her life, I pray for her family and friends tonight and everyone that is suffering through that pain of loss. But Lord, I pray that we rejoice in knowing that she is seeking after you now. Lord God, we love you. We thank you for your son, Jesus Christ, and what he's done for each and every one in this room tonight. Again, thank you for Port Orange, and I pray that your decisions are made known tonight, and your name is made famous. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilman Wiles.
Here.
Councilman Bastian.
Here.
Councilman Stiltner.
Here.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. Gentlemen, let me just make an announcement and ask for your help with this evening. We have been working very hard to find a captioning device that can help us caption our meetings live as we stream them through Bright House on POG TV. We are experimenting with one of those softwares this evening. So first of all, these things right here, make sure they're close. Second of all, sometimes in the course of debate, we start with a little back and forth. I ask that you kind of slow down, make sure that one person is talking at a time, and that we see generally, so make this a good test to see, and as people come up and speak to us as well, we want to make sure that one person's speaking at a time so that we can test the system. The whole idea is that we want to make our meetings as accessible as possible, and there are those that what we've done is we've had to caption the meeting after the fact, and sometimes you don't have that same feeling watching at home that you participated quite the same way when you're watching the next day when everybody else is able to watch live the night before. So we're experimenting with that, and we hope that it is quite successful.
Mayor, one question about the microphones. Should we turn them off when we are not speaking?
No,
Do not.
do not.
When
And I'm
we
going to
are
tell you
not
why.
speaking.
And I'm going to tell you why. You're going to forget. This microphone is for this, so everybody can hear. This one right here is the one that picks us up for POG TV, and you can't turn that off anyway.
Excellent, thank you.
So I don't want anybody forgetting
I don't know.
by
That's okay.
playing with a microphone. And this council, I think, is for the most part civil, except for Chase, who yells at people off the deep end from time to time, unless, but that's only when we're talking about first step shelter.
now.
So, see? We're going to start with some happy stuff tonight because we've got some accommodations to give away to some very deserving individuals. So we're going to start item 4, Port Orange Police Department Accommodations Award Ceremony. Council, if we'll meet down there. Chief, the floor is yours. Chief, you got anybody left out on the road?
Yeah, we have a few left on the road. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Tonight we have several awards. We have officer awards, and we do have some civilian awards as well. So we'd like to present those tonight to our deserving folks. Front and center, if you will, I'd like to see Detective Benazet, Detective Portillo, and Officer Avila. Detective Portillo is absent. He's in a training class this evening, so he won't be able to attend. We'll get him his...
He's excused.
Yes. On February 4th, 2019, Officer Nicole Avila responded to a series of vehicle burglaries and stolen vehicles on Hyde Park Drive. Officer Avila recovered a latent fingerprint on the passenger door of a truck and submitted it into evidence. The fingerprint came back to a male from Brevard County. Based on this recovered fingerprint, Detective Silvio Portillo and Detective Benjamin Benazet responded to Brevard County and began interviewing the male. The suspect confessed to committing several vehicle burglaries in Port Orange and implicated other subjects in the crimes during the interview that were occurring throughout our city. The teamwork and investigation led to the suspect being charged with 2 vehicle burglaries and vehicle theft. Detective Silvio Portillo, Detective Benjamin Benazet, and Officer Nicole Avila outstanding police work and diligence exemplify the department's mission statement, which is to provide superior service to all visitors and residents of Port Orange and bring the rule of law to criminals with valor and integrity, and they did so that evening. And they were both awarded the Award of Achievement. Ben? You got a picture.
The proverbial family photo.
Thank you.
There's no doubt about it. This is definitely the safest spot in the city right now.
Bravo platoon, front and center, please. Council and residents of Port Orange, this is our entire Bravo platoon. I think everybody is here. Is that correct, Lieutenant? Missing one. This is our Bravo platoon of our patrol division, patrolling our streets in our city for us. On February 13th of 2019, the Port Orange Police Department's units were dispatched to a suspicious person on Kendrew Drive. The caller advised that he just observed a subject on his video surveillance system pulling on vehicle door handles in his driveway. Officers from Bravo platoon quickly responded to the area and stopped an SUV with a driver who matched the description of the suspect leaving the neighborhood, and he was involved in a crash on his way out the neighborhood. Officer Sean Lowry arrested the suspect for leaving the scene of an accident. Other officers from Bravo platoon arrived on scene and found several purses in the SUV during the inventory after the arrest. And officers also located other property on the roads that appeared to be from the automobile burglaries in that same neighborhood. The owners of all the identifiable property were contacted, and all were found to be victims of auto burglaries in that neighborhood and that were recently occurred. The suspect was charged with 4 counts of burglary of a conveyance, 3 counts of theft, 1 count of leaving a scene of accident. All the victims' stolen belongings were recovered that night and returned to them very quickly. The efforts and teamwork of Bravo platoon exemplify the department's mission statement to provide superior service to all of our visitors and residents of Port Orange and bring the rule of law to criminals with valor and integrity. This case brings great credit upon themselves and to the department and to the city of Port Orange. Bravo platoon is hereby awarded the unit citation for exemplary work, police work. Congratulations. I will present it to their leader, Lieutenant Ryan McGee. I was going to call you Jody. Nice job, gentlemen, ladies. Great job. Sergeant.
I don't know if this is the best platoon, but it sure is the biggest.
This picture may be a little challenging, but
We're going to use the wide angle lens for this one. Scott, it's pretty good when they can make you look small, man.
That's what I've been told is the tradition here.
Most good lieutenants will do that.
Ryan, pay no attention. Scott.
We have an award of merit presented to Officer Krista McBride and Officer Jared Alvisados. And if K9 Nico is available. He's in the truck. No, come on. That's okay. On March 13th of 2019 at approximately 2:21 hours, which is 2 in the morning, approximately, Officer McBride initiated a traffic stop of a vehicle for multiple traffic violations and contacted 3 males in the vehicle. All the passengers in the vehicle showed signs of extreme nervousness, and 1 passenger had another person's ID. Canine Officer Jared Alvisados and his partner Nico conducted a canine sniff of the vehicle, and Canine Nico alerted on the vehicle. A search of the vehicle revealed multiple items belonging to a citizen who lived in an unincorporated area of Port Orange. Recognizing this, Officer McBride and Officer Alvisados requested VCSO deputies to contact the citizen, and they quickly discovered that the items found were just stolen during a car burglary at his residence. Subsequently, Officer McBride was able to get a full confession from the suspect, who admitted the burglary and the theft. Ultimately, VCSO was able to recover all the victim's property. The suspect was arrested on 8 felony counts and 5 misdemeanor violations. This case is an example of outstanding police work that resulted in the solution of a felony crime for the Volusia County Sheriff's Office and the apprehension of a repeat criminal offender in our community. Officer McBride and Officer Alvisados were able to turn a simple traffic stop into a felony arrest for multiple charges that included serious crimes that were committed in a neighboring jurisdiction and our own, and exemplified their mission of bringing the rule of law to criminals. Great job.
I think we got room for this picture this time. This up, you're gonna need a bigger box.
I'm telling you what. Officer Justin Sorrell, front and center, please. Officer Sorrell is being awarded the Award of Merit. On February 28th, 2019, at 21:14 hours, a witness called 911 and reported a person checking vehicle door handles and entering the vehicle. Officer Sorrell was conducting burglary patrols in the area when he was dispatched to the burglary in progress. Officer Sorrell was able to respond to the scene quickly and observed the defendant still in the cab of the truck. Officer Sorrell called out and identified himself to the defendant. The defendant exited the truck and proceeded to walk away along the fence line of the property. Officer Sorrell repeatedly gave commands for the suspect to stop, but the suspect took off running. After a short foot pursuit, Officer Sorrell, I'm having trouble saying your name today, I don't know why, but Officer Sorrell effectively deployed his taser and subsequently took the defendant into custody. The defendant was charged with the burglary of a conveyance, petty theft, and resisting an officer without violence, and later found to have attempted 3 other burglaries in the area. POP returned all the stolen items to the victims. Officer Sorrell's actions exemplify our department's mission statement, which is to provide superior service to all of our visitors and residents of Port Orange and to bring the rule of law to criminals with valor and integrity. Officer Sorrell's outstanding police work resulted in the apprehension of a felon, the return of stolen property to the victims, and brought credit upon himself, the Port Orange Police Department, and the City of Port Orange. Congratulations. And we do have some citizen awards. Unfortunately, the citizens did contact us and just said they could not, they had other commitments tonight and they couldn't be here. However, because I think that's very deserving, I'm still going to read them and into the record. For Casey Fisher, Casey is receiving a citizen commendation on February 28th, 2019 at 21:14 hours. Casey Fisher observed the defendant checking the door handles at vehicles at several residents in the area before he successfully entered the unlocked vehicle in his driveway. While Casey Fisher was on the phone with 911, Officer Sorrell was able to respond to the scene quickly and observe the defendant still in the cab of the truck. Mr. Fisher decided to be an involved and caring citizen by notifying the police of an in-progress criminal activity. As a direct result of Mr. Fisher's quick action, the male who broke into the property was successfully taken into custody and charged with burglary of a conveyance, petty theft, and resisting an officer without violence, and later found to have attempted 3 other burglaries in our area. POPD was able to return all that stolen property to the rightful victims. The citizen commendation is presented to Casey Fisher for his great fortitude and moral courage by not tolerating criminal activity and taking decisive action and reporting it immediately. He is to be commended for his actions as they reflect great credit upon himself and show that the residents of Port Orange are willing to be involved in the protection of our city. So we will get this to him, and deserving round of applause for Casey. Also, we have a citizen commendation for William Weatherall. On April 9th of 2019 at 02:52 hours, a male suspect found his ex-girlfriend at a residence in Port Orange. He allegedly entered the home and produced what the victim thought was a firearm and told her to come with him. She ran and locked herself into the bathroom where she called 911. The suspect fled into South Daytona on a bicycle. South Daytona Police, Daytona Beach Police, and Volusia County Sheriff's deputies all assisted us and responded to assist in the search. Daytona Beach Police spotted the suspect on Bellevue Ave and chased him into the 1300 block of Bellevue. William Weatherall observed the pursuit and decided to intervene. Mr. Weatherall took quick action and tackled the suspect from his bicycle. Mr. Weatherall sustained injuries to his face from tackling the suspect from his bicycle. DPD then took the suspect into custody. As a direct result of Mr. Weatherall's assistance, the suspect was arrested for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon against his ex-girlfriend, armed burglary to a residence, possession of heroin, possession of a Schedule III narcotics, possession of cannabis under 20 grams, drug paraphernalia, resisting without violence, and 2 outstanding Volusia County arrest warrants. Not a upstanding citizen. This citizen commendation is presented to William Weatherall for his great fortitude and courage by not tolerating criminal activity and taking decisive action to capture a fleeing felon. He is to be commended for his actions as they reflect great credit upon himself and show the cooperation is necessary between citizens and law enforcement. Thank you, Mr. Weatherall. And one last citizen commendation.
Wait a minute. Time out. Is he here?
I was told, I'm great job out there. I was actually on Bellevue when you did that, and I came after. All lights were out. I had a meeting, and I was like, wow. So it was great. Great job.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. And before I begin the last one, is Ethan Pickerance here? Okay. I had some cross communications this afternoon, apparently. So, citizen commendation for Ethan Pickavance. Ethan Pickavance was passing by 610 Commonwealth Boulevard on his bicycle when he observed a male cutting the lock on the gate to a property. Mr. Pickavance observed the male holding bolt cutters, then heard a sound consistent with a lock being cut with bolt cutters. Mr. Pickavance observed the male enter the property and begin to shine a flashlight into recreational vehicles stored upon the property. He called 911 to report the suspicious incident and made the decision to be involved in a caring citizen by notifying police of an in-progress criminal activity. As a direct result of Mr. Pickavance's quick actions, the male who broke into the property was successfully taken into custody and charged with 1 felony and 4 misdemeanor crimes. The suspect is also likely to be connected to recent crimes at this same location on 9/23 of 2018. This citizen commendation is presented to Ethan Pickavins for his great fortitude and moral courage by not tolerating the criminal activity and taking decisive action and reporting in a timely manner. He is to be commended for his actions as they reflect great credit upon himself and show that the residents of Port Orange are willing to be involved in the protection of our city. Great job, and thank you to Mr. Pickavins. Mayor, if I could just expound a little bit on this stuff. So what we see here tonight, and we do have quite a large, as I look up, there is quite a large force here. Each one, this isn't all of our officers, all of your officers. This is some of them, and this is some of the work that they do every day. Outstanding work. I couldn't be more proud. A lot of good things are going on at the police department. You know, as a side note, just last week, one of our motor officers was named the Motor Officer of the Year for entire Volusia County. Was awarded by, thank you. Officer Phil Sleece was awarded by the Volusia County Goldwing Association for his proactive police work and the quality of work he does. So a lot of good things going on there. You know, recently, I think many people know that recently we, as a city, were awarded quite a prestigious honor of being notified that we are the second safest city in all of Florida. And we're very proud of that at the police department. But we also realize that we cannot do it alone. We have, and I point out our department heads, our city council, our city manager, all the support that we get, and the collaboration that we work in different departments within the city to make that happen. We can't possibly do it alone. We need everybody else's help, but most importantly, we need our citizens' help. And there's great examples tonight of citizens helping us and cooperating with us. And for that, I say thank you, because without you, we cannot exist the way we do. So I appreciate it. I'm sure the council appreciates it too. So thank you. Council.
I just want to take a second real quick to echo the chief's comments, because I was thinking along the same lines there. One of the things that I've noticed recently that I've tried to impact in the community and start talking about more and more is we have developed a culture all across our country. When things happen, our instincts now are to jump on social media and put that stuff on there. You were reading the last one. It's not a stretch for somebody to see somebody with a pair of bolt cutters cutting a chain off of a fence of a locked compound at 2 o'clock in the morning, and their instinct is to go to put it on Facebook and social media. And the reality of it is we have a fabulous police force here, as we see here tonight and we see here many times. But the community has to help them do their jobs. They can be so much more successful. And so we need to continue the message out there. When we see things being posted on social media, ask them, did you report it as well? Did you contact the proper agency and all that kind of stuff? Because that will just improve the opportunities that we'll have to recognize citizens and talk about the great things in the community and keep these crime rate numbers down among the lowest in the state and quite honestly across the southeast region of the United States. Lastly, real quick, and I know a lot of folks have got to go, and I didn't want to pass an opportunity tonight to mention this. So we've got a group of people in here, quite a few actually, that have been involved in an organization, I think, that started recently about 2 years ago. And it's a local support group to help law enforcement officers and their families, and it's called Spouses Backing the Blue. And recently they had as many as you know, they had an event here at a local golf course to raise some money for that organization. They did a fabulous job, and they should be commended and congratulated for that, because it's a fabulous effort. It's a much needed thing. Law enforcement officers, it's not easy for law enforcement officers to reach out when they need help, and they have to rely on each other and a network of family and friends to identify those times and those needs and do it. And you have to have organizations that can help funnel some of those things and support that stuff. So that is an awesome organization. I'd love to have that organization come to council one night and talk a little bit about the organization and what's going to be happening in the future, and keep those future events for Spouses Backing the Blue relative in our community and be talking about those organizations. Because the one thing I know, a lot of times in Port Orange, people are looking for ways to help organizations just like that. They just don't know how and where. And so I just want to congratulate those that are here tonight that were involved in that organization on a fine event first year for doing that type of an event, and obviously it was really successful. And I appreciate the support and the opportunity that I had to make sure I tried to embarrass the mayor for a very small amount, and wouldn't you know, he was, for the first time in his life, he actually hit a golf ball straight and it backfired on me, but that's okay. So, but anyway, congrats to all of you tonight, and for those involved in that organization. Chief, congrats for a great group.
Thank you very much. And one last thing in closing, I take the opportunity anytime I have a captive audience. If you notice, one note, one common thread through most of these crimes were burglaries from cars and thefts. This entire area that is epidemic, quite frankly. Everybody, we can all help. Let's lock our doors and remove our valuables, because there are people out there, they just come into our city looking for that in the overnight hours, and they look and they just try to do your door handle, open your door handle and get into your car and steal your belongings. So please, let's lock our car doors and let's remove our valuables, and we can all be part of the solution here. Thank you, guys.
Guys, we got another set of presentations to make. We'll wait about 45 seconds to give a chance for the room to clear.
And council, if I can have your attention while the folks are leaving. The microphones must be muted in order for the open captioning to work. So just be cognizant. I've muted your microphones. It was not working when they were not muted, so I muted them all, and Chief's microphone started working. If it's green, press it red. Thank you. You press it when you talk. It's push to talk, push to mute.
Alan, it's all you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Alan Rosen, Assistant City Manager. If I could have Alyssa Christian, Amelia Bonjour, and Emma Dominguez come and join me up here on this side for a moment.
I think that's an extra one.
So, for those of you who don't know, this is Alyssa Christian, Amelia Bonjour, and Emma Dominguez. They were members of the city's Port Orange, Florida's 2019 Youth Leadership Program. This was an intensive one-year program that consisted of a significant time commitment. In order to be considered for the program, applications were required and interviews were held with the city manager and the mayor. If you got past that part, then you got me. And upon acceptance, participants completed the Port Orange University program that provides an in-depth orientation to city operations over an 8-week period. And after that, the participants received leadership training and completed their own strategic plan. And as if that wasn't enough, each year students choose a topic of concern that is interesting to them and they would like to address with the City Council. In 2019, Alyssa, Emma, and Amelia chose the topic of single-use plastic straws. They were tasked with researching different areas of plastic straw use, including impact on the environment, health concerns, global legislation, and alternatives to plastic straws. After the research was complete, they created a PowerPoint presentation summarizing their research. The team presented their findings to the Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce, the Port Orange Environmental Advisory Board, and the Port Orange City Council. Their research paper was also provided to numerous cities around the state, companies with an interest in the outcome, and the Florida Legislator's Office of Program Policy Analysis and Government Accountability Office. The students' hard work and dedication to this program and their efforts have made a broad impact in Port Orange and throughout the state of Florida. Locally, their work is culminating in a resolution by the City of Port Orange supporting the reduction of single-use plastics, which will be considered at the next council meeting on June 4th. And during the time that they were doing this, of course, there was a bill in the state kind of preempting local governments from doing anything. And I think because of their efforts, the governor decided to veto that bill, right? Let's see that. So I have some certificates for you guys. Alyssa, Emma, this must be yours. If you guys want to come over here, we'll take a picture with council.
That brings us to item 6, public comments on consent agenda items only. Anybody wish to comment on any of the consent agenda items? There being none, item 7, agenda approval. I'll take a motion now.
I'll second.
I need a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting first.
Motion to approve.
And that was your second?
That was my second.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, might I bring up a point? This is going to happen, and it's very understandable. The microphones have to be pressed green in order to record your eyes. Just make sure that Robin gets them. Most importantly, and that you press your green microphone for the eye
Aye.
every time you talk. Thanks. It's probably going to take a few meetings to get this down.
The microphones are now an extension of our, of what we do up here now. Instead of just letting them sit there, we actually have to work them. So now I will take a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
That is a motion to approve items 9 through 13. Call the roll.
Councilman Wild,
Yes.
Councilman Bassett,
Yes.
Councilman Stillner,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont,
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. That also included retirement of a police dog. Chief, could you come up here for just a second? There was really no need to take that off the consent agenda to approve that, but tell us, I just want for people to understand, when a police dog retires, what does that happen? What do we go through?
Yeah, so we're asking for the retirement of Loki, one of our police dogs tonight. He's assigned to Officer Greg Cook, canine handler. Typically, when a city retires a police dog after several years of service, first of all, their working life, because of the patrol function, is in and out of the cars and stuff, and it's quite stressful on their hips and stuff. So their work life is usually a span of 5 to 7 years. Loki has served that. And is shown some tiredness, quite frankly. And so typically when we retire a dog, we do offer it to the handler, because usually they're he's, but the dog becomes a part of that family, because they do bring the dog home every single night with them. It becomes a part of their family. So we offer it to the canine handler, and we retire the dog from service, and he or she, the canine handler, takes the dog as a personal pet. And that takes basically Loki off of our responsibility, if you will, but it also provides them with their pet. So and it gives them a good quality of life for the rest of what he has left in his life. So that's how we typically do it, and that's what we're asking for.
And that's what we approved,
And I appreciate that, and I'm sure Officer Cook appreciates that as well.
because that was an actual retirement of an officer. I wanted to make sure that they got the recognition.
Yeah, ironically, Officer Cook is retiring as well, and so it met kind of in the middle there, and I think his came a little unexpectedly. So he had an opportunity that presented itself to him, but we were looking at Loki a little bit. He had some vet issues and stuff, so it kind of came together for both of them. So it's kind of a neat little thing that we can do it together.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Citizen participation, agenda item, Feral Cats, Richard Scheibel. I hope I said it okay.
You got it right, believe it or not.
Reset the timer. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, it's agenda. I thought there was a 10-minute limit on that, is there not?
There is.
Which,
That's all right, I'll be
If you-
within that time.
if you take more than 10 minutes, we're in trouble anyway.
That's
But all the same, I want to make sure we're following our rules. So,
Okay, all right.
floor is yours.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for letting me come up and tell my story. My name is Richard Scheibel. I live at 307 Church Street. And we've lived in this house, my wife and I, for over 20 years. And we've had dogs the whole time through that 20 years. Things had changed in the last year because our neighbor decided that she is going to start feeding feral cats and be in a feral cat program. So it just turned out to be a nightmare for us. Our quality of life has changed. Our health has suffered. The reason why our health has suffered is because of the stress that we've been under, not only with the fact that we can't do anything about the problem because of the current ordinances that the city of Port Orange has with their catch and release program with the cats, which means if the cat is clipped and they catch it, they release it in the same area. If a cat is caught and it's healthy, that they go ahead and have it fixed, they release it in the same area. That doesn't solve anything. I still have a problem with cats coming on our property. So with that, that's just an enormous amount of stress that we've been going through for the last year because we're helpless. We don't know what to do. We can't do anything. Every time we've asked for any type of help, the burden is put on us. They say, why don't you put out traps? Traps don't do any good. Why don't you put out cat deterrents? We've done that. Cat deterrents do not work, okay? So we've jumped through the hoops and everything. And it got to the point where I started thinking is, why is the burden put on me to protect my property with a problem that I didn't create? Why doesn't the burden go on to people that feed the feral cats? Why don't they have accountability? Why don't they have responsibility? Okay? So this whole thing is just driving us nuts that our quality of life is changing. I'm going to give some examples of it, okay? We spent over $3,000 to fence in our backyard so our dogs would have a safe haven. They could run, they could play, and they're safe, okay? We don't let them run out in the middle of the street. You know, we keep them in the backyard. Well, when the feral cat program came in, we have cats now that are going in our backyard, okay? They use our backyard as a litter box. So now our dogs are sick all the time. We have to worm them constantly. Now, this never happened 15 years ago when we had dogs. Never happened. But now with these feral cats, it's happening. Not only that, we have a 5-year-old dog that went blind, okay? The vet doesn't know why it went blind. It went blind during this time. And this dog has been sick all the time because for some reason dogs like to eat cat feces, all right? They do. And that brings the diseases to them. My wife looked on the internet at all the different cat diseases with feral cats. It's an enormous amount. They affect humans. They affect animals, okay? So now with the dogs, I have to go out with the dogs to make sure there's no cats in the yard. I have to go out, I have to watch them, make sure they don't eat any cat feces. I can't do that all the time, all right? So it's like, why do I have to live this way? My life has changed. Why do I have to live this way? All right, so that's one thing. These cats, they've been on the roof of my house. They walk on my fence. They walk on my cars, okay? They're on my front porch. I got videos. I got pictures of this stuff. I got pictures and videos of it. Why do I have to live this way? I can't get rid of the cats, okay? The ordinances that the city of Port Orange has restricts me from doing anything. If I try to do anything on my own, I was told by animal control that I could be animal cruelty from whatever I do, okay? So my hands are tied. I can't do anything. That's another part of the stressful part of it. One part of my yard is probably maybe about a 30 by 20 foot section. There was at least 25 holes dug from the cats going in there and using it as a litter box, okay? 25 holes. I had to disinfect the whole area because I don't want any diseases. I had to fill up all the holes, all right? Why do I have to live this way? Why do I have to live this way? I can't, when my grandkids come over, I can't even let them outside because of the diseases that all the feral cats are leaving around. Why do I have to live this way? My hands are tied. I can't do nothing about it. I need you to do something about it, all right? I got a Weber grill. The cats actually went up underneath the grill, knocked the pan out of the way, tore up all the burners, knocked all the drip pans out of the way to get to the grease, all right? So now I had to put a barrier around my grill, all right? So now whenever when I want to barbecue, I have to pull the barrier away, and then I could barbecue. Why do I have to live this way? Why do I have to do this? All right? It's just so frustrating. These cats, they attract other cats. Okay? I don't care. I know about the feral cat program, that eventually they die off or whatever. There's always new cats. People own cats. They're tired of taking care of them. They let them outside. They go away. It will never end, gentlemen. It will never end. I've been through this for a year. It never ends. It's a constant different flow of cats that are constantly going in there. So it's just, and these cats, they attract other cats. Once again, diseases, okay? If they're feral cats, and they could be rabid cats, all right? So not only can I not have my grandkids go out and play in the yard, but we have a school bus stop that's in front of our house. What happens if one of these kids waiting for a school bus tries to pet one of these cats and the cat scratches them or the cat bites them? Now what do we do? All right? So now we got a situation with that. So right now we have a problem with all these cats. We're constantly chasing them out of our yard. Constantly. Once again, I have videos. I have pictures. Every day there's a cat. I sent out another video where the cat comes strolling around, and this is daytime, nighttime, and I've got a tree out there that has mulch around it. I went out there and I looked, there's holes all dug in there from where the cat's using it as a litter box. Right by my walkway, all right? Come on, why do I have to live this way? It's not my fault, and I have to be burdened by my life being changed and have to do all this. I'm here doing this because of the cats, all right? I don't want to be here, but I'm here because of the cats. I have to fight for my family. I have to fight for my dogs. I have to fight for my property. I'm tired of it. I'm not going to stop here if it doesn't change. I'm going to continue with the fight because I'm tired of it. I can't do it anymore. This may sound silly, okay, to a lot of people, but we used to have a lot of birds, a lot of squirrels, a lot of chameleons around our house. It's a dead zone now. There's no birds. There's no chameleons because they're killed. The cats destroyed everything. They chased away all the rest of the wildlife. Okay? I mean, come on. What am I supposed to do with this? It's incredible. Cat deterrence. I've tried the sonic cat deterrence, okay? They didn't work. I have dogs. The sonic cat deterrence could affect my dogs. So why would I want to do that? All right? But I tried it. It didn't work. I tried coyote urine, which is a cat deterrent. I tried that. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So I tried to do the best I could do. And once again, I looked, why is the burden on me? Why do I have to do this stuff? These people that feed these cats, why don't they have the accountability? Why don't they have the responsibility? Who's going to pay for my vet bills? It cost me $500 for my dog that went blind. I've got to pay for that. It's the cats that started all this stuff. It never happened to before, but I got to pay the bills for it. What if they're on my car and they scratch my car? Who's going to pay for that? I got to pay for that. They have no accountability or responsibility. It should be illegal to feed feral cats in a residential area. If they want to feed feral cats, they should have them in an enclosed area. PVC pipe, chicken wire all around. You can make a nice big enclosure for it. They could keep all the cats in there. They could deal with all the cat feces. They could deal with the cat urine. They could deal with all that stuff. I spent $3,000 on my fence. Don't you think they could spend $300 to build an enclosure for their feral cats? Let's be fair about it, okay? I'm doing my part. Here's another thing too. If my dogs aren't in the backyard or in the house and they're on a leash when I walk them, I carry bags with me. I clean up after them. I respect other people's property, okay? I do my share. If I let my dogs run loose and no tags, animal control will pick them up. If they're not claimed, if they're not adopted over a certain period of time, what's going to happen to them? They're going to be destroyed, all right? Why don't they have to face the same thing? All right? I heard a thing saying where they said that, well, they're wild animals. Well, if they're wild animals, don't feed them, okay? If they're wild animals, they should fall under your nuisance clause, wild animal nuisance clause, and they should be taken care of, all right? Time. Okay, but anyways, I'm finishing up. But
I was gonna get the hook.
okay, but one last thing I'd like to say is that these people, they don't care about my dogs. They don't care about my property. They don't care about my health or my wife's health. She already has high blood pressure, okay? This is shooting it through the roof. So I'm fighting for our health, for the health of our dogs and our property. And it's time that the ordinances protect the tax-paying citizens of Port Orange and not cats.
Yes, well done, honey. A little long. Does it at home too? Anyway. Hi, yeah, hi, I'm Sherry Scheibel, same address. Yeah, if I could. Can I? Oh, okay.
Yes.
We had it planned for,
Mayor, how much time would you like to have to talk?
oh, just a couple of minutes if it's okay.
4.
Can I add?
3 minutes.
I just wanted to add a
3 or
couple
4
things he
minutes?
missed.
Okay.
Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah.
There was a case in Leesburg that a rabid cat got into a house, forced his way in, bit a child, a police officer, and one of the parents, and gave them all rabies. This is just in Leesburg, and this was recently. And I'm trying to hit just things he forgot. And, you know, we have 2 young kids, good grandkids. We have another one on the way. These cats spread very horrible diseases that only feral cats spread. And some of these cats, it's not that we don't love cats. I have cats, but some of these cats are young enough they could be adopted. But the neighbor that is doing this is unstable on things. She's very hostile. She has threatened me physically and verbally when I've tried to talk to her about this. She is unhinged over these cats. She says they're the only love she gets in her life. And so I said, well, why don't you let them in your house or find them a good home? Let them go to a shelter. And she just gets like, she doesn't care. She likes to brag about the fact that she loves cats. One of them, I see him dead in the street all the time. And it's very upsetting. And she yelled at me one day that she was missing one, and I said, well, I saw him dead at the street near Dunkin' Donuts. We ride our bikes all the time. She didn't care at all. She wouldn't even go look at him. I said, you want me to show him so you can bring him home? No, my cats wouldn't go over there. You know, she just dismisses me like we don't matter. And I know she's got other issues, but these cats, to go on from that, you know, I live in fear from her because she is extremely hostile toward me and had to be held back from attacking me. And we have contacted Tom Grimaldi, J.R. Phillips, Lieutenant Aiken, Jennifer, and I call him long-suffering Chris from Animal Control. They've been really nice. They've come out and, yeah, dear Chris has seen too much. But God love him. He keeps coming out and listening to us. And Jennifer's wonderful. He sent emails to Mr. Tremont, Stiller, you're very nice. You're all very nice. Governor DeSantis, which he would prefer to have this be done locally, but he will get involved, but he wants it done locally. And so do we. I called to Port Orange Elementary myself, talked to Pauline, told her about all this stuff with the kids, because that scares me. Feral cats carry leukemia, FIV, which is HIV. They can carry typhus, plague. Some of these I can't pronounce. Ringworm, rabies, roundworm. Cat scratch fever is not just a song. It's a serious disease that can cause lymph node swelling. Liver, eye problems. I think we get the idea. Okay. And it's a parasite that can cause mental illness. This yeah. Thank you. Brain damage. They even link it to causing the crazy cat syndrome because it changed rats into being attracted to cat pee. There is a study on this. Look it up. It's fascinating. It's more than I ever wanted to know. Okay. Thanks very much for listening. And I have this information if anybody wants it. We've been putting them up with. Quite a bit of information. Yeah, it's taken way too much of my life trying to deal with another with her problems. Thank you.
Is that all on that item? I didn't have any more, so we have anybody else to add that?
Mayor, I believe I invited one other person that was not on the list, but is here to speak.
Is that okay, council?
Absolutely.
Mr. Patel?
Thank you, sir. Shailesh Patel, 4643 South Clyde Boris Boulevard, Gulfstream Village. I am actually an owner on that property where there are several businesses, and I've been there since 2007. Over the last 3 years, kind of echo what these folks just said. As a business owner, it has now become really a problem for us because we have probably over 20, 25 cats, as indicated. People are feeding them not only cat food all over our complex, including near our entryways, right, that are not working there, do not own the property, but they have the right to come onto our property and put cat food all over the place, all right? So they're putting cat food, they're putting chicken wings, they're putting all kinds of other products, which I don't know much about, but the cats are coming everywhere, right? And one of the things that has happened is now it's starting to become a nuisance because there's cat crap all over the place on our sidewalks, our entryways. Whatever they throw up, there's actually literally vomit all over the place. Blood in some cases during the seasons, we see that entryway. And myself in particular, obviously some other people have security systems in there, and so when they sit near our door, we have a mat, obviously because we're an engineering firm, folks come in, wipe their feet, and we've now had to change that because the cats sit there during the winter, and as they get startled, they, tap on the door, and there's a sensor that's set off. You can check with your police department how many times my office has had a call, and I get a call at 5:36 in the morning. And now it's just like, yeah, don't dispatch the police. It's probably cats. So when the real thing happens, I have no idea. Still, I get up and go because of that problem. So it is definitely a nuisance, and I think you need to do something because the people that are coming to feed, okay, we don't have a problem, but they're becoming bold, right? They become vulgar when we approach them and say, please don't do this here. We have a learning center, as they just mentioned, right? Kids in that area, and parents let the kids play with the cats like as if these are pets. They want to, they lick them and all that. And I'm thinking like, holy cow, you guys are just looking for trouble because you don't know that these cats are just wild cats. I mean, this is a serious thing. And then who takes on the liability? Who pays for the insurance when there's a claim? Is Gulfstream Village and its tenants responsible, right? Just because the city has an ordinance and we can't do anything with these people. They come Sundays, they come Saturdays, they sit, they congregate, they bring the cats out and they feed them for hours, and we can't do anything because you know what? They threaten us and just say, hey, in a polite way, I say, they just basically tell you, piss off, otherwise, you know what? We'll have trouble. And so I think you need to do something because it's now starting to impact business people, and that's not right. Thank you.
Thank you, Shailesh.
Do we have any options?
Do we
So-
have any options?
Yes.
We always have options.
Make sure your microphone is green if you'd like to speak.
I did. Is that Margaret saying yes on the red mic? Oh, on the green microphone, is that Margaret saying yes?
Yes, you have options, as you said. You always have options. There's a number of them. I know city staff has been working closely with the police department to develop improvements to your current ordinance to try and address the nuisances that you've heard about tonight.
I think that, for my part, I'm highly frustrated. And the reason is that we are 6 or 7 years into a program that was supposed to reduce our population, and I don't see the result of that at all. And I happen to work in the same plaza with my regular job that Mr. Patel does. And I hate to say it, but he undersold the problem. And Jake and I have had conversations about what staff can do based on the guidelines that we have on our current ordinance versus what we're talking about here tonight. Staff can't just go out and do it. It's going to require us to take some action of some sort. And before we do that, we have to do it from a position of being informed. And I hate to ask for yet another workshop before we take action, Jake, unless there's some definitive actions that we can discuss in a meeting. But I really feel like that maybe this is something we should workshop first if council is in agreement.
I offer a two-pronged approach. Let us continue to work on the ordinance to at least take care of the nuisance piece, so we can take care of Mr. Scheibel and maybe your subdivision and others that where the cats are a nuisance. But if I recall, we budget $65,000 a year for the TNR program. I probably need $165,000 a year. I have 2 animal control officers. I probably need 5 animal control officers just for the cat problem. So it's a big problem. We're going to need to spend some time on some solutions, and I concur that a workshop to solve those long-term solutions or problems with solutions is necessary.
And I don't want to rush into a workshop before we're ready for the sake of expediency either.
I think the nuisance issue is not it's a nuisance issue. I think we can wrap that one up pretty quick. But that doesn't solve the problem. It just takes care of these local nuisances. There are still people that are improperly managing their cat colonies, but the city cannot control that like we do for the chickens, urban chickens. We don't have that program here. I've looked at many other cities, including New York City. They have an alliance and a foundation that does it all. It's the Mayor's Alliance on New York City Kitties or something like that, and they do it all. They have workshops, they have training, they manage it, they go out and visit the colonies, they make sure the colonies are being run right, and they report to the mayor the results. We do not have that here. That's probably a way forward. We're not New York City, but we can take some of their best practices and some of the other cities' best practices and go from there.
As long as we don't have to take their cats. Okay. Council agreement, workshop the item? Okay. Thank you. Citizen participation, non-agenda. Robert Reinhagen.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive North, Port Orange. At the last council meeting, the city manager made a mention of how to get the word out with regard to the election. Mm-hmm. And that caused me to think again about the newsletter. You have a quarterly newsletter. Now, we used to get this mailed to us. Everybody would get a copy. And I guess since then, suddenly it disappeared, so I guess it's online now.
Right.
And, if it's online, there's so many things online. People have to go search it out. And I think that you should reconsider remailing these things, going back to mailing them out. Because this is like a personal message to the individual homeowner from their city. And I think it would get a lot of attention, more than just junk mail would ever get. And so I think you should reconsider putting this as a mailer again. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy Beth Gorin. I am a local business and real estate attorney, and I am here on behalf of the Economic Development Committee of the Port Orange South Daytona Chamber, just observing and reporting back what's going on tonight. That's all.
We don't give you too much to talk about at the next meeting so that You can actually talk about other things.
Well, I'll probably come up, talk about the cat problem and its effect on businesses and what you all are planning on doing about it.
All right, stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Andrew Burns. Oh, there he is.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Andrew Burns. I live 1160 Millbrook Drive, Port Orange. First, I'd like to commend Mr. Chase here for all his work on his First Step homeless shelter. Go get him, baby. I think you need backup because you're working and everybody seems to be picking on everybody that's in that panel. And I'm glad to see Don's here because I haven't had an answer on my emails in over a month. So I'm glad to see you're at least in good health anyway. On the cat deal, I take my garbage out in the morning, get the paper out of my driveway, and my street's got anywhere from 3 to 5 cats laying out on the street. I mean, fortunately, it's a quiet street at that hour of the morning. You don't get run over, but it's like, hey, it's a cat block. I mean, I don't got no problem with it. They don't come to my property, but it just seems weird to see that many cats hanging out in the street. Let's see what else we got. We got any progress on the muffler deal? You were going to research whether requiring mufflers on cars in Port Orange was going to affect the state laws in any way. Remember that?
I've had a couple of emails.
Is this a muffler noise issue?
Yes.
Yeah, we talked to the police department about that, and we're more than willing to give anybody a ticket whose exhaust is louder than the authorized limit. The problem is we have to catch them doing it.
There's no way to do that unless you ask them to stop their car and rev it up. How are you going to tell it? The Doppler effect. I mean, I flunked general science in high school, but I remember the Doppler effect. If you put a sound meter in there like you do on the outside of a bar where they're making too much noise, something coming and going, the volume level changes.
Yeah, there's 64,000 people in this house, or in this city. We can't go checking every vehicle in the state.
Understand that.
The state doesn't man
I understand
inspections.
that. The police have come to my house every time. When I talk to you, you sent the police to my house. When I
Right.
talk to him, he sent the police to my house. When I talked to code enforcement, they sent the police to my house. And all the policemen told me they were very sorry, but there was nothing they could do because they don't have a way of measuring it. So that's why I said we pass an ordinance that says each car should have a muffler equal to the factory specifications. When they do stop somebody, they'll have a reason to give them a ticket, but right now they don't have a way to give them a ticket. That's what all 3 officers told me, and we had from 2 regular officers to a sergeant, all telling me the same thing. And last time I was here, they said we were going to check to make sure that requiring a muffler on a car didn't infringe on any state laws. And I guess because I didn't make the next meeting, nobody did anything.
We'll take a look at that with our legal department and check
I know
for
what
you.
they said last time.
I'm sorry, but I just heard that for the first time, and
Well, I think you were here. I think you said
I
that
may
you
have
were going to
misread.
check on it.
I may have misread the email, but I work
Mayor.
with the city attorney every day.
And the idea of mailing that letter out to the homes, very good idea, that gentleman there. Because I was just looking at mine. The last one I got was back in December. And it's a good way to keep it in front of the town so if they know when the meetings are and everything else that's going on in town. It's a good deal. See you later, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Good night.
Mayor,
Margaret,
I'll be happy to follow up on that question.
if you would, please.
Thank.
I'll take multiple angles on that one.
That would be my angle, by the way.
Okay. Council comments. Jack, what you got for us tonight?
Just a couple of things. One is on, I think it was May 15th, we met with John, Heather Armette with the Scalar Engineering group that's doing the PD&E study for the Halifax Trail to discuss options for the trail, alternate routes and so forth for preparation for the upcoming workshop on the 28th. And there was 4 options that were proposed and 2 were quickly eliminated in our minds. But we'll talk more about that on the 28th.
Okay.
The second thing is the Dunlawton ramp, just a quick question on that. We have some volunteers down there working that, just doing a fine job. My question, I guess, more so is, and I've been asked by several people, and I just want to bring it forward. There's a lot of green space down there where there's no parking signs for trailers. Seems like people use that green space anyway to park. Is there a reason we have no parking signs there? I know we don't want erosion from the green space, but everybody seems to be doing it anyway. That would be one question. And the second part of that, or one part of it, the second part has to do with the back ramp. A lot of times that's closed off by a police officer or a volunteer when people are trying to launch their boat, maybe on a weekend when it's really crowded, and then take the car and the trailer somewhere else, but they're not allowed to do that. They're being prohibited from actually coming in doing anything. So we might want to revisit that and see if there's a way that those people can still use the ramp to get their boat off, but then remove the vehicle because the parking's full. That would be something I think we should take a look at. But as far as the green space, I'm not sure why we're not allowing them to park there. If they're going to park there anyway, we're giving them a ticket. Sometimes give them a ticket, sometimes we don't. So something we might need to take a look at.
I don't know the answer to that either, but
Yeah.
we can find out.
Okay,
What else you got?
that's all.
Thank you. Chase?
I didn't have anything specific, but I did have something I was going to mention earlier, but I didn't want to take away from the awards or the retirement. But to the chief, my wife lost her wallet last week, and one of the officers found it and returned it. So as a citizen, thank you, and as a husband who didn't lose his wallet, I'm very appreciative that you got her wallet back. So just my compliments to our police department and our chief. Just growing up, you hear some narratives, and then when you're serving on council, anytime you get constant compliments for police officers, that's great to hear, and I hear it all the time, particularly the direction that our chief has taken us. So my compliments, thank you to all. Continue to stay safe.
That's it. Okay. Drew?
Don't have much. I haven't been on Beachside in about 2 weeks. Do we have an update on the possible completion date of the bridge maintenance?
April. No.
Next of 2020?
No, they said they hope to be wrapped up by June, and that was the last time I talked to them, and that was about 2.5 months ago. I haven't.
Good Lord, because that.
It's going to be done when it's done.
Yeah.
I'd really.
Yeah, that traffic is just at times is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know last time I talked to District 5 about a couple items, they wanted to get it done before school was out, and school's almost out, so we'll see.
Okay, thank you.
Can you get us an update just and throw it in the weekly for us?
Yes.
I could have seen that coming a mile away. What else you got, Drew? Scott?
Making sure I got my green light on. Some of the comments that I had tonight, we've already had a chance to discuss and be able to bring those to light. In regards to Councilman Wild's information, I met about 3 or 4 weeks ago with Sue Lavallo and Bruce from Parks and Rec for about an hour and a half down there at the boat ramps, looking at quite a few different areas of concern. The parking that you're talking about, we talked to exactly. The history of that has been that many decades ago, when some landscaping improvements were added, we put in irrigation, and what was happening is people were parking on top of the irrigation, breaking the irrigation, and Public Works was constantly out there fixing it. By the way, just a little take a trip back in history. One of the things that happened to us probably back in the early 90s is there was a publication in a magazine for boating and fishing that named our boat ramps facility as one of the top in the state.
Ooh.
And as soon as they did that, I remember
Release the
one
hounds.
time we actually were looking, we were like, why all of a sudden has this popularity grown? And we went down there, we started looking at the license tags, and they were from Orange County, Osceola County, Seminole. So anyhow, it's utilized by a lot of folks from all around the state. But in any regard, so we looked at some opportunities down there, Jack, and they've already actually opened up one of the areas. There was an area underneath the bridge where it used to be no parking, and it just turned into, well, if I get a ticket, that's just the price of going boating today. So we looked at that, and really it's not an area that can stay landscaped well because it doesn't get enough sunlight and all those things. So they've already opened that up. I went by the other day. Incidentally, it looked like it's added about 10 parking spaces. So there was, and people are parking accordingly. One of the other issues that we're dealing with, hopefully that are short term, is the bridge project. They've got a lot of our single vehicle parking spaces are blocked off right now because they're storing equipment down there. So I don't know, maybe that's 15, 20 spots that we've lost right now. So hopefully we'll be getting those back soon. But we also looked at some other opportunities down there because I do agree that it's just a challenge area anyhow to try to stay irrigated, and it's got St. Augustine grass, and I'm just not sure that it's productive. It may be counterproductive. So I know she's looking at that, and I think Jake didn't have an opportunity to meet us down there that day, but I think she's going to be getting with Jake and can bring us back some of those ideas as well. On top of that, I will tell you, I think we met down there, it was a Tuesday or a Wednesday morning. We met down there like 9 o'clock. Every parking space was completely full for single vehicle. I mean, people are using that facility constantly, 7 days a week. You go out there at 10 o'clock at night when the weather's nice, there's 15, 25 people out there on the fishing piers, and that's great. I think it's an awesome problem to have. I think what we've got to look at is, we've got to see what we can do to maximize the opportunity for people to come down and enjoy it and not have to not go because of parking. And I get that, even if you created another 40 spots, more people are going to come. But, again, that's a good problem, and that's one we need to look at. So, and we looked at some of the other things. Some of the new ramps, by the way, and the floating docks hit the mark, man. 5-star reviews, love them. People are just thrilled with the quality and how good the access and how all that came out. I know that we're looking at doing something similar on the other side and improving those because they just get used so much. It's basically nonstop 7 days a week, and every boat pounding into those docks just nonstop. That with the wear and the tear and the weather. And then we've developed this thing where people now, when they come in, they tie up and they use the docks themselves as fish cleaning areas. And it's just trashing the docks. It makes them dangerous. It's slippery and dirty and nasty. So they're looking at some opportunities maybe to put some designated areas for that activity as well. But the fishing piers look great. The amount of people are using them is fabulous. We're looking at some other opportunities maybe to have other like trash receptacle areas to keep the cleanliness of it. Although I will tell you, and I got to give a compliment to our Parks and Rec folks, I see them down there all the time on the weekends, Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings. They are always down there, and they've always got a great attitude, and they're always helping clean up. Our VIP program does a fabulous job down there. I've always kind of been a little bit concerned about that because people are excited. They got the family in the boat and they want to go, and they get down there and there's not a parking space, and now they have to bear the brunt of that disappointment. It's always been a challenge. I will agree that for no reason should we not allow somebody to launch the boat. I mean, those ramps should always be available for that because I know several people sometimes that will launch there but then go park their trailers up in South Daytona or whatever and stuff like that. So I would concur that I think the ramp, the accessibility to the ramp for launching and parking are two separate issues. So we need to look at that. But hopefully Sue can get with Jake and maybe bring all that stuff back of what we can and can't do.
One other point along those
Are
lines.
you on?
Yes, I
Okay.
turned it on. One other point is a lot of times probably just education, maybe by the volunteers down there. A lot of people will drop their boat off and leave it there, and then they'll go drive their truck around. If they could just move the boat to the mooring side, then somebody else could come in. So it's just a process, and a lot of times when it gets backed up and you get probably 10 boats there, I could see where that could be a problem and just start stacking up. So maybe just a little bit of education by the volunteers to the people that are launching their boats would certainly help move the process along a little better. But no, good points though. Thank you.
What else you got?
That's all I have.
I should have seen that coming too. Some things coming up on the horizon. First of all, I wanted to mention, council, if we have a change of heart about it, this perfectly fine by me. But in regards to sending out the newsletter, the reason why we went to sending it out electronically and people can sign up to have it sent to them when it comes out is it costs about $80,000 to print and mail that thing. And that's about 1/10 of a mil. I mean, it's not free to do, and nobody cuts us a break, and the post office certainly doesn't cut us a break. So that is a healthy expenditure, and if during budget workshop, think about it. You don't have to answer tonight, but $80,000 cloud hanging over your head in this day and age of the electronic frontier, you have to ask yourself, is it worth this price to get that information out? And I think the information is important and vital, and that's why we still do the newsletter in electronic format. Most people have email access, and more people use it with greater frequency. But that's an $80,000 price tag if we want to go back and start printing and mailing it, just to let you all know that.
And we do have something in place where if they want to request something mailed out to them, then they can do that? Is that, do we have that?
No, we send it out via email. We have hard copies in City Hall for anybody that wants to pick one up. I think in customer service, out in the lobby, the clerk's office, the city manager's office, and the library. We also put out the weekly, and the mayor said it was important and vital. I take out the words vital. We don't put anything in there that's very important to know, and it's quarterly. We have multiple daily and weekly ways to get information out that you can opt in or visit and get information you need. The question is how involved in government do you want to be? All you have to do is go to Christine's website or Christine's Facebook page if you want to know when the next vote is, when the next agenda meeting is, when the next planning commission meeting is. So the information's out there. We also go on WSBB. The mayor's usually on WNDB. I don't know how many other media outlets we can get to reach all the people. So I'm not sure the election is a lack of getting the information out as much as it is a lack of interest in voting.
We were covered radio, multiple radio, and all 3 newspapers covered it thoroughly. So.
And Channel 6, I think, TV. So one of them, 35, one of them covered it.
So I'm going to repeat a challenge that I made a couple of weeks ago. Put it in your smartphones right now. Your reminder, if you haven't got your ballot in the mail, you can send it back in, but there is a runoff election in this city that is going to occur on June 11th, just a few weeks away. If you got your mail ballot, you can go ahead and return it now. But if you like voting in person, I kind of like the feel of it myself. I understand that. Put your reminder in your smartphone, on your desk calendar, sticky note on your refrigerator, whatever you got to do. Election Day in the city of Port Orange is June 11th, and this is a citywide vote for the District 1 council seat. So that's my challenge. I have an 18-year-old that has now participated because he sent his mail-in ballot back since he's going to be out of the country. This is his 3rd election since he turned 18 that he's got to participate in. And I'm challenging the rest of Port Orange to see if they can't keep up with this kid. He takes it very seriously, and I'm proud of him. Tomorrow evening, the Volusia League of Cities is meeting for its annual awards banquet. There are a lot of categories, from Citizen of the Year to Executive of the Year, Public Works, whatever the case may be. But I thought it was important to know that everybody recognize we've got 3 different categories of award winners coming from the city of Port Orange tomorrow night, and these people are going to get recognized. As Citizen of the Year, Amy Hall. Born and raised in Volusia County, a graduate of Spruce Creek High School, she has worked for Volusia County schools for 20 years. As the coordinator for student and government relations, Amy oversees all school counselors and in the capacity understands firsthand the plight of needy students. After many counselors told her that students couldn't afford essentials like school supplies, backpacks, toiletries, and haircuts, Amy formed the Backpack Brigade. This organization has solicited donations for the last 10 years and currently donates 200 backpacks filled with essentials for needy students annually through Volusia County. And those essentials go beyond just school supplies. Many people don't volunteer their time for charitable organizations, let alone create one. However, the Backpack Brigade was not Amy's first brigade. About 15 years ago, Amy saw need in the community and created the Volusia Thanksgiving Basket Brigade. Basket brigades are encouraged by Tony Robbins Foundation and are found all over the world with a similar goal of feeding needy families. Amy's brigade uses volunteers to provide laundry baskets filled with items for Thanksgiving meals, feed anywhere from 5 to 10 people. Last year, the organization locally delivered 2,800 baskets. That's a lot of work, a lot of volunteers, and she spearheaded it. Not yet satisfied with her involvement in the community, Amy joined the Port Orange Community Trust Board 8 years ago, and for the last 3 years has served as its secretary. Port Orange Community Trust organizes major events such as Family Days, Movies Under the Stars, and the Spring Fair. Proceeds from these events benefit the community through special projects, grants, donations, and scholarships. To date, the Port Orange Community Trust has contributed over $1 million back to the community. During Amy's involvement in the trust, Volusia County Miracle League requested a grant from the trust, and she was so impressed with their mission, she joined their board as well and has been involved with them for the last 4 years. The Miracle League's mission was to build and run a baseball field and a league for children with disabilities. And if you haven't seen it, it's a beautiful facility in New Smyrna Beach. With Amy's help, the dream became a reality, and the field in New Smyrna Beach now accommodates about 40 players from across Volusia County in its second season. The Miracle League is now working on building a playground for children with disabilities. Phase 1 is complete, and they are working on funding for Phase 2. Amy is also on the board of Simon's Angels. This organization raises money for families struggling with the costs associated with their children's medical conditions. Simon's Angels helps families pay for travel, medications, and other bills they can't afford while they're struggling to help their child heal. Mrs. Hall is married and has 2 children. She says it's easy to see the direct effect her efforts have on others, but sometimes you don't see the positive ripple effect for many years later. And an example in her own life is that her daughter recently called her from college in Tallahassee and asked how Amy could help get a Thanksgiving brigade started there as well. That's our Citizen of the Year from the City of Port Orange for the Volusia County. Distinguished Service Award from Public Works and Public Utilities also goes to a Port Orange employee, Mr. Frank Flagg. In November of 2011, Frank Flagg came to work with the City of Port Orange to oversee major facility construction projects. As facilities manager, his accomplishments in beginning a second career with Port Orange included City Hall roof replacement, rooftop air conditioning, demolition and rebuilding the old city police department into the new Dorothy L. Huckel City Annex. That was no small challenge. Re-roof, hardening, and interior rehabilitation in Fire Station 73 in 3 different projects. 4 different renovations at the YMCA, including the pool, City Police Department evidence room, Public Works exterior remodeling, re-roofing, rehabilitation of a residence after major flooding, and assessing and estimating repairs in all city structures after Hurricanes Matthew and Irma. He's worked in every department in the city, assisting the development of work scopes and numerous construction projects, developing accurate budgetary cost estimates, and assists departments' issues on various construction projects beyond his job duties. He's very detail-oriented, and his performance goes beyond the call of duty for his position. Frank has saved the city hundreds of thousands of dollars with his attention to detail and expertise in strengthening a big need that we had in facilities management. He has really shored that up for us. And at 75 years young, he continues to come to work, always smiling, and works, and this is true, and works circles around most employees. He's got more energy than most people I know, half his age. He's an inspiration to many and freely shares his knowledge in whatever possible. With his career throughout Volusia County, I cannot think of another employee more deserving of this award. And then finally, Distinguished Service Awards for Parks and Rec goes to a pair of individuals from the city of Port Orange, Joshua Long and Robert Matassa. Mr. Long and Mr. Matassa are tremendous assets to the city of Port Orange. Day in and day out, they work hard to keep city parks and rec facilities clean, safe, and green while always interacting with the public by lending an ear, providing a warm smile, or a simple hello. And they are both as friendly as they come. It really is true. However, on October 6, 2018, Mr. Long and Mr. Matassa went a step further. And it says one step further. I would say it's one big step further. While they're servicing a park in the Harbor Oaks neighborhood, they witnessed a vehicle driving at a high rate of speed, zoom past them, through a park fence, and into Rose Bay. Without a second thought, and keep in mind the time of year, that water was cold, full of oysters, Mr. Long entered the water and swam out to the car and removed the driver from the vehicle while Mr. Matassa called 911. Upon securing the driver on the hood of the sinking vehicle, Mr. Long then went back underwater to be sure no one else was in the car after he witnessed a children's toy float by him. Thankfully, the driver was indeed the only person in the vehicle, and the driver did not come out willingly. Mr. Matassa stayed on the phone with 911 operator, giving details and updates to assist the quick arrival of first responders. These gentlemen went to a new level on October 6th to provide public service to a resident in need without any concern of their own safety. That's why they were nominated, and they well beyond just Parks and Rec employees. I tell you what, it speaks to the quality of the people that we have working and living in our city, and these are just a few examples. And tomorrow night, they're going to get their just due, and I know it took a little while to read all that. I appreciate everybody's patience, but I think it was well-deserved, and I think it was important that we recognize them here and at this time. Okay, you can clap. I guess I forgot that part, right?
We turn the green light on.
Did I forgot to turn? Yeah. Do I need to reread that? I forgot the green button. That's going to take us all the way to annual report from Art House. Come on up.
Good evening. Hello.
It's on.
Beautiful.
It's green.
Thank you for inviting us here tonight.
And who are you again?
Excuse me. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm the new executive director of Art House, nonprofit youth art organization that has been going strong in Port Orange for the past 20 years. Some of you may not know a lot about Art House, but Art House is a fantastic nonprofit organization. Let me give you a little bit of background. Art House was founded 23 years ago by Tim Ludwig, Lori Gomon-Ring, and others at Spruce Creek High School after the initiation of the high school's International Baccalaureate program. The importance of a young artist completing the creative process through peer and community viewing was realized, and thus began the evolution of Art House. Over the years, Art House has come to serve Port Orange and Volusia County in so many different ways. Our gallery and the exhibits displayed within become the cornerstone of the organization so many years ago. We display artwork throughout the year in our art gallery located at the corner of Ridgewood and Herbert. We also display student artwork at each of our 4 outreach galleries, including Port Orange City Hall lobby and the Daily Grind restaurant on Dunlawton. And the 10 Art House exhibits and 18 outreach exhibits during the year of 2018, 881 student artists exhibited over 900 works of art. Of the schools in Port Orange, 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and Spruce Creek High School had their own exhibit. Though we are proud to serve the community's young artists in this way, Art House does so much more than just providing galleries for our students. We provide tuition-based art, after-art school programs, and summer art camp. Our yearly summer art camp lasts for 7 weeks and serves half-day, week-long sessions for both younger and older age groups of students that are vacationing for the summertime. Scholarships are awarded for all of our tuition-based youth art programming for families who would otherwise be unable to afford such lessons. The majority of students in these classes are from the Port Orange community. Last year, 387 Port Orange students attended either after-school programming or our summer art camp, and 19 families residing in Port Orange received scholarships for these programs. Our tuition-based programs are a fantastic way that allow us to generate funds to help finance our free outreach programming. Our outreach programs are geared towards special youth populations found around the city of Port Orange and all throughout Volusia County. We provide art classes for at-risk ladies at the Pace Center for Girls and have done the same over the years for the local Boys and Girls Clubs. We provide art supplies scholarships for the graduating high school students that choose to further their art education in college. This year's art supplies scholarship recipient was Miss Emily Childress from Spruce Creek High School. We've got a couple new programs that we've started developing we're really excited about, we want to tell you about this year. We're beginning this fall. We will be working with the Easter Seals for art therapy lessons for children with special needs. We will also be, we'll be working with the Hope Place, which is the family homeless facility here in Volusia County. We'll be providing art lessons for them as well this fall. Another journey we're going to embark on is working with the Children's Home Society with foster children here in Port Orange and providing them with a free weekly lesson that we're in talks with at the moment as well. In 2018, we developed a new program to help with the shrinking budgets of Volusia County art teachers. They get about, on average, Title I art teachers get about 40 cents per year per student for art supplies. That's 4 sheets of paper, 3 crayons, and a little bit of glue. It's not enough, and the budgets keep shrinking. We started an art bank. The art bank is essentially funded by our amazing community members that donate art supplies to Art House for this reason. We also purchase art supplies, and once a semester, we make it available for teachers all around the county to come and pick out whatever they need. And it's a way to help our youth create things a little more intricate than coloring on a piece of paper. We raise funds twice a year for our annual fundraisers. One is our Fun and Funky Dinner. It's coming up this June. Last year we honored Senator Dorothy Huckel. It was an amazing event, and she was such an amazing honoree to have. We're so very proud of that. Another way that we generate funds is to fund these outreach programs is through our street painting festival and during our Port Orange Family Days. We team up with Port Orange Community Trust and initiate a chalk painting competition. Artists come from all over the country, and it is such a fantastic cultural experience for our community. It's all inspiring, and the chalk actually is still going out there pretty strong from last October, so we're gearing up for another year. We'd also like to announce our excitement regarding our future move to the newly renovated gym facility, rec facility here in the city of Port Orange in the city center. With this move, we'll be able to reach more children through larger classrooms. We'll be able to reach more community members for cultural enrichment through a larger gallery. More storage is going to be really great, and we would like to thank
Air conditioners at work all the time might be nice.
Not trying to complain, but we would really like to thank the city of Port Orange for being so gracious and generous in the past almost 20 years by giving us the opportunity to serve our community. We have a couple plans that have to do with Art House in the next year, and well, actually in the next month. We were broken into in March and vandalized. City of Port Orange replaced our window very, very quickly, and it kind of made us realize that we need to do a little bit of beautification on A1A ourselves, so we will be doing that. We will be replanting plants in the front planter box, new billboard, new window paintings, and a new mailbox. In 2018, Art House served 123,884 people in Volusia County. We gave 977 artists the opportunity to exhibit artwork in our gallery and in our outreach galleries. We also provided 3,495 art education hours through our various art classes, both in-house and through the community. I'd like to take this moment in closing to express our deep regret for the loss of Councilman Bob Ford in December of last year. His advocacy for Art House on the council was truly humbling, and his passion for art and culture was only outdone by his kindness. We were humbled by his service for us and his representation for us, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with the City of Port Orange and its honorable council members. Members like you help provide the children of Port Orange and all of Volusia County with opportunities and services in art, creativity, and cultural development. Thank you.
Not bad. You never did give your name, Cameron. Come on.
Excuse me. My name is Cameron Benson, the new Executive Director of Art House.
All right. Council questions. When we start this in, Scott?
Thank you guys for everything you do, and definitely I love that you mentioned the future of being able to move Art House here to the City Center campus. We were all excited about that. That's going to be a really neat addition to the campus area, and I think it's going to create a ton of energy and opportunities and growth, and it's just really going to be something special to have, very valuable. From a personal note, do you have the dates for the next Fun and Funky dinner?
I do.
Every year I seem to miss.
Attached to the dossier that you received from Art House, you have our annual report, numbers, and an actual invitation. So I'll be looking forward to yours in the mail in the next week or so.
Sounds good.
June 7th,
Sounds good.
5:30.
Okay, very good. Thank you guys for coming tonight.
Thank you.
I'll apologize in advance because I'll be over in Orlando with my son for college orientation. But believe me, I think you all probably having a whole lot more fun than I will be. and the indication, any event that you have ever been to that these people do, there's no way you don't have fun. Drew?
Just want to say, appreciate it, the what you guys are doing and everything. The relationship with the City of Port Orange has been, beneficial for both parties for a number of years. And it's nice to see, even though it's a small venue right now, it's nice to see what you guys are capable of doing. On another note, both of my daughters went to art camps. I think it was over the summer when they were toddlers and little ones, and they loved it. And now they're adults and all grown up, but it's been a wonderful journey. So appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Chase?
Yeah, you guys are continuing to blow me away every time. I certainly so appreciate your what you guys bring to the community. On a personal level, I'm very excited for my 3-year-old to start getting involved. She goes, my wife takes her over to the library a lot, and she loves chalk. All my black shirts are now tie-dye shirts. How she likes to draw on me if there's not another platform around. And I especially appreciate hearing your attention to the special needs children. So very, very pleased anytime I see an organization that remembers that population. So keep up the great work. You always have my support as well.
Thank you.
Jack?
Yeah, no, thank you for all you're doing, and we look forward to having you in the community center here and being able to handle more students, and I think that's it's a great thing for our community. So thanks for all you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Having you in a community center here once it's done certainly will help raise the visibility and hopefully help you bring it to the next level. Ironically, at the last council meeting, because of Bob's passing, we have not been able to assign a liaison, and he was a terrific champion for Art House and always brought that information back to us. And I had asked Jake, I said, we need to get them in here because without Bob we haven't been getting information. Be nice, because it's been a little while. And he says, oh, I think I got that covered. He was already on it and already had you scheduled for tonight. So glad that you're here, glad that you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. With that, this is probably as full an agenda as we've had in a while. I think we should probably take a 10-minute recess right now. And we're back. Citizens Advisory Committee for the TPO, Mr. Bobby Ball.
Good evening. Bobby Ball with the CAC for the TPO. My green light's on. Am I good?
You're good.
All right.
Green is good.
I'll be quick. We had our monthly meeting last week or yesterday, and a lot of regular type updating of lists and programming and things like that, priority lists. But the main thing to mention is that Dunlawton Avenue's adaptive traffic signal system got additional funding through DOT. So that's pertinent to Port Orange and probably the highlight here today. Outside of that, there's also a public hearing coming up. It's a June 11th at 3 o'clock. It's where it's sort of a federal certification process in which the feds require an audit, more or less, in which the public can come out and weigh input on the transportation planning process. And with that, that's all I've got.
Questions for Mr. Ball?
And this may be between you and the city manager. So with that funding, is that adaptive signaling? Where are we at as far as, like, is that whole project fully funded now?
I believe it is. It will be now.
Will be now.
I believe so.
Do we know what timeline that I can hold you to?
I can find out.
Yeah. And I know I hear those discussions too in the TPO meetings. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend that today, so I don't know if it was talked about. I was just kind of curious where we are, because I know that's one that all of us have been waiting on for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just curious now that the funding is
Yep.
in line.
I'll find out.
So Tim sent me an email yesterday. It's fully funded. It'll start in 19, be finished in 20.
There you go. Staff's on top of it.
You just show up and answer.
I didn't do a thing, but.
Thank you, Bobby.
We're going to teach these guys how to operate microphones. And any other questions or comments for Mr. Ball? There being none?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Planning Commission appointment, item 18. I believe we have 8 applicants. I know that we've heard from a couple via email that couldn't be here tonight. I heard from Stan Schmidt because he's volunteering at his church this evening. At this point in time, do we want to take nominations or hear from applicants first, or how do you want to handle it? Yeah. Hear from applicants and then take nominations? Any nominees that are in the house?
Any applicants here?
Any of the applicants? There being none?
Anybody? I also, like I said, I did hear from 2 of them that could not be here because of other commitments and everything. So I don't know.
Choose an applicant? Okay.
Oh, we have an applicant.
Well, then come on up. Tell
I'm
us who you
Christina
are.
Berry. Nice meeting you.
Tell us about why you're qualified and why you'd like to help.
I'm not entirely sure that I'm qualified, but when I lived in Maine, I wanted to run for mayor and I wanted to be a part of city council. And the one piece of advice that I was given was to be more involved. So now that I've lived down here for 2.5 years, I'm trying to get more involved and be part of my city as much as I possibly can. I am part of the Civil Service Board, Civil Service Committee. I also volunteer with the New Smyrna Humane Society. So I'm trying, and I get that it's not Port Orange, but I'm trying to get more involved and trying to learn as much as I can about my community. So when the possibility came up to be on multiple boards, I figured I would try to do my best and apply to all boards that, in a sense, seemed interesting, I guess. So the planning committee was one of them, a part of, as long with the part of civil service was also interesting as well.
Okay.
Did you have any other, what are the other boards that you have?
Right now, just the civil service.
Civil service, okay.
Okay. And you're willing to serve on multiple boards?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And that's good to know because we have a wealth of applicants with a wealth of experience, and I don't want to turn anybody away who wants to help. So even if you don't get appointed tonight, I'm glad that you're serving on one, and hopefully we'll get you on another one or two. And furthermore, it's a lot warmer down here than it is up there.
Very much so.
So we're going to enjoy the warmth of Florida, and welcome to Port Orange, and we're glad that you want to be involved.
Thank you.
Any other questions for it?
Not really a question, but a statement. Christine, I appreciate your volunteer. You already are on one board, and I appreciate you volunteering and wanting to be involved. We have 8 applicants tonight for one position. And if you aren't selected, please don't get discouraged. Stay involved. And, we have openings on a regular basis. Keep your application up to date. And, when there's an opening, then just, let the clerk know of your interest. And as we see you here, we'll find somewhere for you for sure, because we love our volunteers.
I want to echo that, and remind again, with 8 and 1 to fill, but it's why I asked you if there are any others. And I've been in your spot trying to get on boards, and I was not successful in the past, but here I am right now. But in the future, if indeed it's not in the cards tonight, I am certainly glad to have gotten to see it, because a lot of people just put their names and they don't come to the meetings, so it's hard to do anything without seeing a face of the name.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, before I accept nominations, gentlemen, we do have paper ballots. What we're going to do is one opening. So among the nominees, you're going to vote via paper ballot for one person, and one person only. At whatever point we have the ballots filled out, the clerk will take them and she'll tally them. In the event of any ties, which will be difficult to do, but you never know, because you have multiple nominees potentially, we'll continue on with the top 2 until we get on, until we have a choice. But that's what we're going to do. At this point, nominations are open. I'll accept nominations now.
We're writing those down.
Writing them down, or we
The
nominate?
verbal nominations.
There's nobody to vote for. You haven't nominated anybody yet.
It says nomination on the form. That's why I was curious.
Don't look at the form. You haven't got there yet.
I'll move to nominate Richard Barker.
Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Are there any other nominations?
I'm going to move to nominate Jonathan Foley.
A second.
Any other nominations?
I move to nominate Stan Schmidt.
A second.
Any other nominations? Going once. Going one time only. Nominations are closed. At this point, Barker, Foley, or Schmidt, please fill out your paper ballot with one name. Please put your name on the ballot and sign it. These are not anonymous. The only thing that we're doing is accomplishing is that we're voting at the same time instead of in order. Check, make sure he didn't vote twice.
Okay, we have 2 votes for Jonathan Foley by Councilman Bastian and Councilman Stiltner. 3 votes for Stan Schmidt, Mayor Burnett, Councilman Wiles, and Vice Mayor Tremont. So Stan Schmidt is elected.
Stan Schmidt's the guy. Stan Schmidt. Very good.
Welcome aboard, Stan.
Well, one thing's for sure, it's nice to have a wealth of talent to choose from.
Yeah.
Sure.
With that, it goes to public hearing, appeal of planning commission denial of variance 5807 Clover Lane. Before Penny gives us the background on that one, gentlemen, I want to remind you, according to the Land Development Code, Chapter 19, Section 1F, The council's decision to reverse or uphold the planning commission's decision shall be based on the facts of the case as presented during the March planning commission meeting. The review criteria established for variance requests and the commission's decision on the requested variance. No new evidence may be presented tonight or heard or discussed. Any new information must be can and must be presented as part of a new variance request. So this is an appeal based on the presentation of the materials that were at that meeting.
Good evening, Penelope Cruz, Planning. So the applicants are requesting a variance to allow a 6-foot tall, 7-inch tall fence that was constructed in November 2016 to remain in the current location. I'm sorry, long day. The fence was constructed without a building permit after Hurricane Matthew. In December 2016, a month after, code enforcement cited the property owners for constructing a fence without a permit. In May of the following year, the property owner submitted a permit, and after a review of that submittal, staff contacted the property owners to notify them that the location of the fence, as you can see in the PowerPoint here, where it's adjacent to the right-of-way, did not meet the setback or height requirements, and notified them of what those are: 20 feet off the right-of-way, because this is a corner lot and it has to meet the secondary frontage requirements. So basically through to the plane of the house. After that discussion, the owners amended their permit, signed for it, picked it up to construct a 4-foot tall fence set back 5 feet from the right-of-way. And you can see here that this is where the existing fence is built. This is the area here that we're talking about along the right-of-way. The blue area here is what is the closest to the right-of-way that you're allowed to build. It's that 4-foot tall fence in the front setbacks, setback 5 feet from the right-of-way, and this is what the building permit was issued for, the after-the-fact building permit. Over the past year and a half, code enforcement has re-inspected the subject property and found that the fence had not been corrected to comply with the approved building permit. And the owners would extend the original permit when a notice of hearing before the magistrate was issued. After the last code enforcement site inspection in January of this year, the property owners applied for the subject variance that is before you tonight to keep the fence in the current location. At the Planning Commission meeting in March, the Planning Commission denied the applicant's request to keep the fence in the current location. However, they did approve a modified version of the request. You can see here where the purple line is, to allow the fence to be relocated 30 inches off the pool deck. The applicant did not accept that modified approval and chose to appeal the denial of keeping the fence in the current location. With that, the staff report went into some of the other details, how the variance did not meet the criteria for a variance. I won't get into all of it tonight. I know the applicant's here. It's a long night. So unless you have specific questions for me, I can pause now and answer your questions and turn the mic over to the applicant.
One quick question. I'm curious as to what the vote tabulation was of the Planning Commission. Was it unanimous?
The entire Planning Commission denied the applicant's original request to keep it in the current location, and they were all in favor of the modified request. But the applicant did not accept that modified request.
Sure.
And that request was the 30 inches off the pool deck.
Right, yes, this purple line, that's
yeah,
what
the purple line
the Planning
you showed us.
Commission was trying to come up with a compromise.
Yeah.
And so that's what they were comfortable with and
Yeah.
voted to approve.
Okay. I visited the property. I didn't get out and measure, but I know the fence is, do you have how far is the current fence off the right of way? I know,
right adjacent to it.
Yeah, I know it's very close. It might be a foot or so. Like I said, I didn't get out of the car and measure, but I did visit the property and I had a lengthy conversation with Mark. This fence was constructed after hurricane damage, if I'm not mistaken, and put in the same place where the previous fence was. And I know the records don't go back to the 80s, but
But when you replace a fence, you have to meet the code requirements. So we don't have a.
So it changed, obviously, over 30
Well, we don't
years.
have proof that there was ever a permit issued for the original fence. There's no
Yeah.
records of that,
Okay.
that far back. But the current requirements require you to either, if it's a conforming lot,
Yeah.
you actually have to meet the building setbacks, which is 30 feet. If it's a non-conforming lot, which this is already a non-conforming because it already has the pool into the front setback.
Okay.
You actually get a little bit more leniency, and it goes to 20 feet. It goes to the plane of the house, which is 20 feet.
Okay.
The issue there and why the planning commission voted to have an alternative amendment is that and it's a little bit hard to see in the aerial, but the pool deck actually extends further out from the plane of the house, and so that's why the planning commission.
Oh, okay, so they kicked it out.
Because you can't really put the fence right in line with the plane, so they
Yeah.
gave that option to have it 30
2.5
feet off the deck.
30 inches.
30 inches,
30
sorry,
inches.
not feet, sorry. It's been a very
So-
long day, guys, sorry.
So you don't have any access of a previous permit?
No.
But do previous codes that
No.
you're aware of permit that?
No, the
Have we
fence
ever had-
permit
was
that
that ever
they've.
changed?
No.
Is this because it's a corner lot?
It's a corner lot, and the streets that it fronts onto are local streets. There are provisions, as was documented in the staff report. Some of the examples that the applicant gave in his application, they noted a few properties along Taylor Road and Spruce Creek Road that have 6-foot tall fences that back up to the, right up to the right of way. Those are through lots. The code has a specific provision for those because when you back up to an arterial or collector lot like that, because those roads have higher traffic. For example, Taylor Road, current 2017 counts are between 15,000 to 20,000 average daily trips. It has a capacity of 37,970 trips. This particular subdivision is 80 single-family homes, which could generate a max of 761 trips. So because of the higher traffic volume, those lots that back to those arterial and collector roads are allowed to have for screening and buffering the fence closer.
Even though
Can
in
you-
some instances they're corner lots.
Yes.
Can you show the picture again of the allowed 4-foot fence?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's where the 6-foot fence is now in the blue.
The 6-foot fence is actually, because that's set back 5 feet. The 6-foot fence is actually on the property line. It's supposed to be 5 feet off to have 4
All
foot.
right, so let's assume that the fence was 5 foot off the sidewalk or property line to get out of the, the right of way there. Could he then bring that, could that be a 6-foot fence possibly?
No, what the code
It's
code
kinda silly
allows,
to-
what
the
the
way the
code
yard would be.
allows is the 4-foot fence 5 feet off the right of way. If this was a collector road or arterial road, but it's not, it's a local road, it's a 80-lot, single-family subdivision. Doesn't have as much traffic as like Taylor Road, for example.
Penny, this is going to sound like a silly question, so
No,
bear with me.
there's no
but
silly questions.
If the fence, I see some fences in our city where, part of the corner is 6 foot and it steps down to 4.
Yep.
Is that an option for this property, maybe a 6-foot fence to shield the pool and then drop to a 4-foot fence for the remainder? Like towards the, is that
Anywhere-
even an option here that we could approve for him?
By code, anywhere in that front setback, that 30 feet off the right of way,
Uh-huh.
because it's a corner lot on
Yeah.
a local road, the fence has to be 4 feet. So within that framework there, from the right of way, 30 feet in, the fence can't be 6 feet.
Oh, it doesn't have anything to do with the front corner and the, that,
It's
angle of
it's
the
both
property.
fronts.
It's the,
They have 2 fronts. Now.
I look at it as a side yard, I get it, but yeah, I understand.
I
what
defer
you're
to the city attorney's office, I guess, for if, just like the planning commission voted on a compromised alternative. I don't know in an appeal hearing if the council would have the right to do that.
It's my understanding you can place conditions on an approval. So if you find a solution that the applicant is
Okay.
willing to proceed with, then that is a possibility. to the evidence previously presented. So that does confine the options based upon the procedure. So, as Penny announced in the beginning, a new application for variance can be made by the applicant for an alternative after hearing some of your thoughts and concerns, perhaps.
Well, I think number one, you said it was done with a permit or without a permit?
Without a permit. And
Okay.
that was in 2016, and they've extended the permit every time they get scheduled for magistrate.
Well, number one, I think, wouldn't consider anything without a permit, right? And two, it needs to be within the setback, the 5-foot setback. Number three, the only thing I would even personally entertain, provided all that is met, would be where the 4-foot fence is allowed to go up to the back corner of the house, possibly being a 6-foot fence, but nothing beyond that.
Like that.
And let me clarify, Penny, can you clarify for us? The original 6-foot fence that's there now was built without a permit.
We don't have a record to prove
record,
whether there
right.
was or was not.
Got it.
We've
And that
searched.
was in 2016.
No.
When would
I'm
that
sorry.
have been done?
The original fence that was being
I'm talking about the
replaced,
rebuilt that's there
the
now.
rebuilt was done without a permit.
Without a permit.
Correct.
And subsequently, they have applied and received a permit to do different work, but want this to be retained.
So it was built without a permit in November of 2016.
Right.
Cited by code enforcement December 2016.
Got it.
Applied for a permit May 2017 for what's in blue, but nothing has
And
changed.
extended every 90 days, the magistrate. Got it.
It's just, looking at the drawing, you can see if they were apply to the code and built it to code, then it would be where the blue line is would be a 4-foot fence, and they could go almost all the way around the property. I'm always concerned about an intersection, blocking the intersection. In this case, we don't have that. But the side yard, which is now the other front yard, would seem like if they had to have a 6-foot fence, then they would have actually no backyard because it'd be right up to the pool. I don't, like I say, I don't have I don't know. There'd have to be some conditions met, obviously, but I think there needs to be a change in the request to include the 5-foot setback and looking at that side yard or additional front yard, however you want to look at it, to the edge of the pool, the end of the house roof where it's an L there, being 6 foot to there and no additional fencing. Yes. But it would be, well, no, not that far up.
Got it.
Yeah, not that far up. Only where the red line is on the allowed 6-foot fence.
He's saying like right
Yeah,
here.
right there, across, and then come across there with an additional 6 foot. So you'd have a side yard. You could actually put a gate there, whatever you wanted to come in. Yeah, basically on the one he has now, meeting the setback, but bringing that red line to where the other red line is, which is allowed. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you see
I
what I'm
understand what
saying?
you're saying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, at the east end of Wales, is there, you say there's no intersection at the
Yes.
end of that,
It's a T.
That's all.
I'm sorry?
It's a T intersection.
The bottom, excuse me, below, yeah, toward the end.
Yeah,
Behind their house, there's no intersection there?
After a
After
ways
Wales,
down.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wales and
There's
the house.
another corner.
There's another corner there?
Yeah,
Is
there's
there-
some examples.
That's what I want to see, an intersection, because that makes a lot of difference if there's
Yeah,
there's
hold on one
a major
second.
intersection right there.
Sorry.
I wanna
So
be-
these
I
are
wanna-
some of the other lots. They're basically, I think the plat is one of the exhibits to the staff report, and the plat shows, I believe it's like double lots there, so there's streets on the other side of the rear lot behind that.
I mean, I always want to be as flexible as possible with people on their personal property. I want to give them as much leniency as possible, but not at the expense of the safety of people that are impacted by what's being done, so.
Chase.
Yeah.
I was there in my car and walked. If you stop at the stop sign and look to the right, the fence in its current location does not block any view. It's not a major intersection, it's the,
And to me, that's all that matters.
yeah, the Leisure Village neighborhood, but if you pull up to the stop sign and you're at the intersection and you look to the right and to the left, it didn't obstruct my view of any traffic, which I was in the neighborhood for about 15 minutes and only saw one car come by anyways.
And here again, we also have to be careful.
Absolutely.
About what's been presented versus.
Yep.
Well, your powers of observation are not to be questioned, but what
Yeah.
was presented before has to be.
And the, looking at the sidewalk, any, kids riding down the,
We can come back to Penny if you, we still haven't heard from the applicant yet. And we can come back to Penny if you, afterwards, if you'd like, gentlemen.
Sure. Yeah, I'm good.
Is there
Yeah.
can I just ask one, Penny, while you're there?
Mhm.
The reason for the 5-foot setback is, I mean, we're doing a lot of trail systems throughout the city. If we wanted to expand that sidewalk, we'd be able to do it, right? I mean, that's
That, I mean, that could be
giving us-
part of it, but it's also to be able to maintain your fence without having to go onto the right of way, be on
Right.
your property and provide maintenance. Again, the 5-foot setback is for a 4-foot fence, but.
That's pretty much throughout
yeah.
the city, though, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
5 foot off all right of way.
Yeah, all right.
can you still do maintenance as it is there, maintenance on the sidewalk if need be?
I mean, I guess you could, but, I mean, that's the standard citywide setback is the 5-foot setback for all fences, whether it's 4 foot or 6 foot. Yeah.
Anything else for her?
No, I'm good.
Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
Hello, my name is Mark Bellius. My current full-time residence, where I've lived my whole life, is in Ohio. And I think it was June, I believe it was, of 2016. My wife and I purchased this house, 5807 Clover Lane, Port Orange. House was a foreclosure, was a nuisance house to say the least. Actually, it was a drug house. My next door neighbor, who works EMT, had been first on scene for an OD in that house. When the house went vacant into foreclosure, it was full of needles and drug paraphernalia. Obviously, the bank cleaned that up, but that's as far as they went. Pool was covered up with plywood, like a lot of them were at that time. In fact, I still haven't opened the pool up or rehabbed it yet, just waiting to see what we end up doing here. The fence had a 6-foot fence all the way around the house, or at least the side of the house and the back side. It also was in very bad shape, very dilapidated. I worked on it as best I could, trying to reinforce it, and the house directly behind me, nice older lady back there let me in the backyard to work on the fence, and then in whatever it was, October, just a few months later, Hurricane Matthew come through there and took out most of the fence. At that time, I was back in Ohio. I had a very small window of time to get down here. I mean, I guess maybe I should have known I would need a permit. I own a lot of rental property. I live right on the border of West Virginia. Own rental property. That's what I do for a living in West Virginia, just across our border. Up there, if you're putting the fence back in the same footprint, you don't need a permit. I guess I should have checked, but anyway, I didn't. So anyway, my brother-in-law came down here with me in December of 16. We got the materials delivered. I demoed what was left of the fence, put the new one in place. Now my lot is considerably higher. I'd say probably when they dug that pool out, they just lost the sand on the ground, and so my lot's considerably higher than on the other side. The fence to the rear of it, actually the bottom foot or so, maybe 8-9 inches, acted as retaining wall for that sand. Of course, it had blown out and the sand out from underneath the pool deck had deteriorated. You could actually put your arm back underneath the pool deck in places. And the same on the left side going down Wales, the sand had eroded clear out over the sidewalk. The brush was clear over the sidewalk. You had to either duck down or walk out in the grass. You couldn't walk on the sidewalk from the brush, extending from the yard and off of the existing fence. So, and I submitted some pictures to that also. So at any rate, we demoed all the fence, took it clear out, put the new one in, reclaimed the sand. And the 2x6 you see placed on the bottom of the fence, that is the retaining wall that retains that sand. Now, when I came before the Planning Commission, a couple of them were pretty close to letting me, the compromise I offered was very similar to what Jack just said, was to, I'll take that side of Wales, step it back 5 foot. Like I say, I've gone all over Port Orange. I've got pictures. There's corner lots all over with 6 foot fences. Now, you know, I realize, so for that to happen in different areas, but tell me that I can't have a 6 foot fence, seems a little discriminatory to me. You know, and I don't think that the code was wrote to be discriminatory, but I think it adversely is that way. So, and that was one of the things that I had offered, was to let me take that side of Wales, I'll set it back the 6 feet. I need to leave a little bit of wood out there to retain that sand, otherwise it's just gonna, you know, deteriorate and run out across the sidewalk again. So I move that side back 6 foot, and it gives me still a decent side yard. And to go down to a 4 foot fence with a pool, and like I say, I'm in Ohio most of the time, and we have a lot of kids that ride bikes around there. I'd say 8 to 12 years old. Now, when I was that age, if I knew that there was a house that the people weren't home, it was gone in Ohio, and they know when my vehicle's there and when it's not, I would have been in that pool. I don't know about you guys, but I would have been. You know, that's just a kid being a kid, you know. So for the liability of it, you know, like I told the Planning Commission, I do not want to be the guy that, whether the insurance covers it or not, I don't want to be the guy that some neighbor's kid drowned in my pool. I don't want to be that guy. I got a next door neighbor up home that had a kid drown, their child drowned in a pond. I know what that's like. It's devastating. You know, a 6 foot fence gives me, it's not total security obviously, but it's a lot more than a 4 foot fence. You know, I mean, anybody can hop a 4 foot fence, and down that side of Wales, we got a lot of rental houses in there. My street, luckily, on Clover is mostly owner occupied, but down Wales, there's a lot of rentals, and, you know, we get some shady characters in there now and again, and I mean, it could be adults sitting over one night just having a beer party and think, hey, let's go jump in the neighbor's pool. He's 800, 900 miles away, you know. And the drunk guy drowns in the pool, you know. So to go down to a 4 foot gives me a way greater liability. And to be honest with you, if I would have known when I bought that house that if that fence goes down, I can't have a 6 foot fence again, I wouldn't have bought that house. I'd have kept looking, you know. I mean, I'm that serious about it. I just wouldn't have bought the house. You know, we've investigated the pool enclosures. I mean, those things start at $12,000, $15,000. And with the way my deck is, and actually my pool, the edge of the pool, if you went with what the code says, you go right off the corner of the house, the fence would actually be in my pool. I've got a corner, it's like a kidney-shaped pool, and there's one edge of it that is right in line with the edge of the house. So that's just, I mean, that's just not an option, you know. And and like I say, I've submitted pictures to quite a few houses in Port Orange that are on corner lots. Yeah, they're on Spruce Creek, they're on Taylor, you know, they're on Nova, but they're still corner lots with the same setback. A lot of them just have the 5 foot setback off the right of way. So you're talking about houses with speed limit in my street is 25. So these other roads that we're allowing them on have speed limits of 35, 40, and 45 mile an hour. So if it's really about the safety of people pulling out there, there's more greater risk for accident on those higher traffic, higher speed limit roads than right back here in my little corner, my little community, you know. So, but another issue that the Planning Commission kind of overlooked, and it got pretty testy there a couple times, but I was very directly told that my elevation for the top of my fence has to go off the elevation of the sidewalk. So in other words, it's 6 foot off the sidewalk, not 6 foot off your ground. And so what inadvertently the Planning Commission did, without checking what my elevation was, to go that 30 inches off the pool deck, my elevation, depending on the sidewalk's got a slope.
Is
Point
this
of
new
order.
information?
Absolutely.
What was said was that the measurement is from the base of the retaining wall, regardless of where that is. You know, it's not measured from the sidewalk, but you measure from where the wood starts, whether part of that wood is a retaining wall or your fence, it's part of the fence. So you measure from the bottom of that up, and that's where
No
you get
matter
the.
where it is on that
Yeah,
incline.
that's where you get the 6 foot 7 inches.
That's not what I'm referring to, though.
Okay.
What I am referring to Well, what I'm referring to is the fact that the elevation on my ground is 24 to 27 inches above the grade of the sidewalk. And so to hold me to that, what's 24 inches off of 6 foot? It's 4 foot. So inadvertently what they did, they allowed me to take a 4 foot fence that could have put 5 foot off the property line to a
Mayor.
4 foot fence 30 inches off 30 inches off my pool deck.
Point of order,
That's-
Mayor.
And that's not something that we can consider.
Okay, well, I understand that. However, I do know that there's properties out there that have had variances granted that have elevations way higher than sidewalk, and there's 6 foot fences on top of that grade. And so,
Mike, if you want me to do this right, I'm very much strictly bound by law on what I can and cannot consider. They can bring something back for us to reconsider if this does not go your way this evening. You have that option.
Yeah.
And you can present anything you want to us at that time. Through it, but for you to have your best chance of being successful tonight, I appreciate it if you just if you could keep it tight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm doing my best to.
Understood.
You know, I think for the most part, I think you get the gist of what I'm saying. I would, you know, if you could pull these pictures back up of my property, are we able to do that?
Yeah, give us a second.
Yeah.
Just curious, is this an investment property or is this
No, this-
primary resident for you?
This will be it's primary well, it's not primary yet. Our primary is still in Ohio, but we intend to retire and move down here. And yeah, this house was bought for our retirement home, not to be a rental or anything like that. Yeah, it was bought for us, and we stay in the house when we come down.
That's another point of order. I believe that wasn't discussed at the Planning Commission either.
That cannot be considered as well.
But so if you can, and this I did bring up in the previous meeting, you know, you can see at the base of there, on the outside of that, where these 2x6s hold it up. And like I say, if you see on the inside of it, and I think I submitted pictures for that, but the bottom one is completely underneath the soil. Now, when we first dug all that back, of course, it was a lot higher. And now that it's had time to compact and settle, you know, I could drop it down to the 1 and still keep the soil retained and drop the fence. It would be 6 inches all the way across the back. Actually 5.5. And a lot of that first one is actually we dug it down to get our plane right, because if you notice, you see a lot of these companies put these fences up and they just chase the grade and they're up and down, they're up and down. I bet you I'm within an inch. There's 150 or 60 feet of fence. I'm probably within an inch of level all the way around. So for aesthetics, I mean, it looks really good, you know. Let me check my notes, see if there's anything else here that I want to go over. But I'll say again, for the planning commission, you know, that was one thing that I'd offered, was to set back on the side of Wales, 6 foot, take it down to the soil there, and you know, I could drop down the rest of the back. I could drop it down 1, you know, 2 by 6. If that would be acceptable. I'm not trying to be hard to get along with, but
that's the nature of your appeal.
that's the
Bottom
nature
line.
of my appeal, is that for security and for privacy, it's like he said, I mean, with a 4-foot fence down that side, you have zero privacy in your backyard whatsoever. You don't really have any security either, for that matter. You know, so, and there's, like I say, there's 6-foot fences on corner lots all over Port Orange, up and down those main roads, and I just don't see the logic as to why they could have a 6-foot on the corner lot, but nobody else can. And the bottom line is, you know, somewhere way back when, not this city council, but another city council made that ordinance. And so this city council could revoke that ordinance and change it, you know, and come with a little more fair ordinance for everybody.
Mike, here's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm going to allow the council right now to ask questions of you.
Sure.
Then I'm going to bring our representative from community development back up, and they'll ask questions of her. I will give you another shot at it, but you know, after we've had questions after we've had questions for them, I'll give you another 60 seconds to sum it up after that. But you know, we're getting repetitive here, and I want to make sure that we have the information we need.
Sure,
So,
I understand.
Scott, questions? Drew, do you have questions?
Not anything further. We had a pretty lengthy phone conversation.
Sure.
And I've been to the property twice, and that was
Okay.
actually several months ago.
Yeah,
We talked,
exactly.
what, February? January, February? I think it was
Probably.
February.
Probably.
Now,
and
your conversation with him is not part of.
no, that's true, but I'm just saying, him and I had a lengthy conversation, and I have visited the property.
Okay. And I appreciate you divulging that.
Okay.
And
So, my take on it is a safety aspect. 6 is safer than 4, and that's where I'm gonna leave that.
I have no questions.
no questions?
Thank you, though.
Okay.
Jack, do you have any questions?
Just the 6'7", I think was an issue. Excuse me. The 6'7", I think was a height issue. Is that right? And then, given the 6'7", that's because of the boards on the bottom. And then, in your recommended or maybe suggested variance, did it include coming back to the roof line at the back of the house by the pool, where the pool goes up to the house? Was your recommended coming back 5 feet and then coming across to that pool, and that's all the fence you wanted?
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, if you look at the
You got to put the drawing back up.
let me get
You're
to
gonna
my
do it
thing.
right. You got to put the drawing back up.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
All right, see what's approved in red?
Are you talking about this, what the planning commission recommended?
Yeah. Permitted 6-foot fence. Okay. See the allowed 6-foot fence. See the red line
Yeah.
going up past your pool to the back of the house?
Yes, sir.
If that fence was 5 feet off the line instead of over there by the pool,
Mm-hmm.
and it came and you closed it off coming across to the house,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure which way your house runs, east, west, whatever, but
Where the red line stops. right?
where the red line
It's an
stops
division.
and went out toward the sidewalk to the 5 feet setback. And looking at the blue line, let's assume that was a 6-foot fence and came across where the red line stops.
I see.
Would that be something
Yeah.
you requested or would
Yeah, I
request?
could, I mean, I could live with that, yeah.
And no other fencing beyond what's already there around the property?
No, well, I mean, there's fence around the rest of the property already. The blue line is, there's no fence on that blue line at all right
Right.
now, so that's, no, I never did want a fence out front of the house or anything like that.
Okay.
All right.
You'd cut it off at where the pool is.
It goes, it's about midway, it goes to about the middle of the house, you know. I mean, obviously, I'd like to
I
keep
see
it
that.
to that middle of the house if I could, you know. I don't see that causes all the,
I think we're getting off subject here.
Okay, that's fine. I think I know where we're at.
Okay.
That would be a reapplication as well, Mayor.
That's where I'm getting. Okay. Thank you. Hold on just a second. We'll give
Okay.
you, get your 60-second summary ready because we're going to one more bite at the apple. Penny? Council, last chance to ask staff any questions?
Yeah, one quick question pertaining to this, but actually, we see a lot of these cases where, you know, people are unaware that they have to put in a permit to replace a fence with the footprint already there. I think that's pretty common. I wouldn't have known that if I was not on council. So I'm wondering why we require a permit for people to put up, just replace an existing fence that was already there.
There's
It's
a
a
difference
structure.
between
It's-
repairing and replacing.
Yeah, you don't need a permit to repair if it's just a few boards missing here and there, but you need a permit to replace a fence. That's been city code. Yeah, if it's more than an entire
If we didn't
panel.
do that, then
Boundary
people would build fences not in accordance with the code, and a hurricane would
Yeah.
come, and next thing you know, we got fences all over in other people's
And that's why I'm
homes.
asking.
Yeah,
There'd be no way to,
so
like, to
so it
check.
is a safety thing.
One at a time, please.
And there's no way to check, you know, then we wouldn't be able to verify the heights and the setbacks and all those things, so.
Okay, well, that's why I'm asking. I'm looking for that background.
You got any other questions?
No, that's all I had for.
Jack, you got any
Thank
questions for Penny? Any questions for Penny?
Yeah. So what are our options tonight? We can approve a variance and leave it to remain where it's at. Can we consider what Councilman Wiles
No.
was?
No.
Approve or disapprove?
We are very limited to either approving the appeal or denying the appeal. Now,
Was-
if we deny the appeal, Margaret, tell me if I'm wrong, if we deny the appeal, he still has the ability to come back and ask for, make a different
modified request,
And he
yes.
can make that request based on what conversation and what we feel we might be able to work with him on, but
It's
we
gotta go
won't be
back
able to
through
do that
planning
tonight.
commission.
That's correct.
But I do want to put on the record, because there was an issue with this before. It is an after-the-fact variance, so a new application also has to meet the after-the-fact variance fees, which is double the fees, $1,800, plus required public hearing ads.
Okay.
for a
So
new
it'd be a
application.
financial burden. So at this hearing, we cannot consider what Councilman Wiles was just discussing.
No, we cannot.
Not according to the city attorney's office.
You can approve, you can deny. If the applicant indicates that he is now willing to go along with what the planning commission had been willing to go along with, I'll allow you that latitude. I believe it's reasonable to do so. You have the consideration of planning commission. They didn't act on it, but they were willing to act on it.
They did, they voted to approve this, but the applicant
they
did
did
not
act on
accept
it.
it.
That was the 4-foot.
No, not, the planning commission voted, they took a vote and voted for an amended
Purple.
Oh,
request,
that's right.
30 feet off the pool deck.
30 inches off the
30
pool deck.
inches, I'm sorry, 30 inches off the pool deck.
You did it
What you
again.
see in purple. They voted on that, they approved that, the applicant did not accept that.
So those are your three options.
And that's a 6-foot.
That's a 6-foot.
Okay, okay.
Approved,
To
denied.
provide the privacy, that was the main concern.
approved, denied, or the modification voted on by Planning Commission.
Scott, questions? And basically, this was when, after Hurricane Matthew, it was put up basically the same footprint and same size as it was before?
According to the applicant, I don't have a permit to verify.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I would like to just add what was in the staff report, just so for future reference, just because of the potential precedent that this can set. Corner lots in the city of Port Orange all have to abide by the same regulations. The examples that were given by the applicant are not just corner lots, they're also through lots to arterials and collector roads, which is why they have different requirements. Corner lots are also required by the city regulations to be a minimum of 15% larger than interior lots. This particular lot is 20% larger than interior lots in the subdivision. And the reason for that larger size for corner lots is to accommodate these additional requirements put on corner lots so as to not be a burden. That's in the staff report. It's not new information, but I just wanted to put that on the record. Based on the discussion here, if the council would at some point in the future like to direct staff to amend the land development code, just because of this could potentially set a precedent, and we might get a lot more variance requests, just letting you know if you can give us direction on if you'd like us to amend the land development code.
Thanks, Penny.
You're welcome.
Mike, you got 60 seconds to summarize your closing statement.
Well, first off, I don't necessarily know that you'll get a lot of variance requests because, like she already brought up, it cost me actually $1,900 to be here today. When I filed the original variance, it had $900 on there. There was no mention, no other of cost, so I filed it. Being transparent, I sent pictures of my existing fence. That's when they found out that the fence was already there, even though Scott Allman, the code officer, had been out multiple times. At that point, that's when she told me it was another $900. So I've spent $1,900 to file to be here today for this variance. And I think that a very reasonable compromise is doing a 6 foot or 5 foot setback for a 6 foot fence, but I don't know if you can consider that or not. If not, I'd like you to consider let me keep what's there.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion at this time for approval of the variance request, which would be in conflict with what the Planning Commission originally.
So you take a motion to approve his appeal?
Correct. I would entertain a motion to approve the appeal request.
So moved.
Second.
Any final comments?
Yeah, Mayor, Yes, Mayor, I have a couple. So we had one of these very similar, not all that long ago, and one of my interests is definitely some consistency. One of the concerns that I have is you've got a neighborhood here where there's a lot of these 4 foot fences, some in this neighborhood and regionally around this part of the city. My concern is the process of, and I'm not suggesting this was an intentional thing, but the process of I'll just do it and ask for forgiveness later creates this. It's a concern. And so I want to be consistent. I think we've got a lot of these 4 foot fences in the area, and as soon as you create an exception, how do we have all these residents who are going to want to come before us and go, wait a minute, I was only allowed to do a 4 foot fence, or I want to change my 4 foot fence and now go to 6 foot fence because you created this exception. And then the other thing is we had one that was a post-hurricane thing not all that long ago. I want to say it was on Boxford Road or something like that, and we denied it. And so I want to just point out that I think it's a very good stance for our city to take to try to be consistent. And I get that it's not a perfect scenario, it's not a perfect situation. I know that the hearts want to, because I agree with the gentleman, you look at the fence, it looks really nice. But I also think that consistency is very important in the community as well. So I just want to point that out before we vote on this.
Drew, final comments? Any?
No.
Chase, anything further? Jack, anything further?
No, sir.
Call the roll. I'm sorry,
Can we get
Margaret.
a restatement of that motion?
The motion was to approve the appeal. That's what we're
Understood.
doing, right?
That would leave the fence where it is now.
Yeah.
Correct. An approval leaves the fence where it is.
The effect of that would be to basically give him what he wants tonight. Call the roll.
Councilman Wiles.
No.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
No.
Vice Mayor Traymont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
No. I would entertain a motion at this time to approve the modification that was offered by the Planning Commission.
I'll second.
No, I said I'll entertain a motion.
Oh. So moved.
We have a motion.
I'm focused on this red and green light thing. So
All right.
moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Call the roll.
Hang on one more. This is for what, Mayor?
This is a motion and a second to validate and approve what the Planning Commission offered.
Should he choose to do that?
Should he
then
choose to
then
do
he's
that.
got the lit.
If he doesn't, he still has the right to come back with a different request.
But
Okay.
I think he still has that option to accept the planning commission's one right now, right?
Well, that's what we're voting on
That's
now.
what we're about to vote on, is to be able to give him
So we
that
give him the
option.
option by voting in the affirmative.
Since his appeal was denied, 3-2. Okay.
Are we clear as mud?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I ask, and I didn't.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I saw it or not, but was there a request during the planning commission meeting to make the modification for the 5-foot setback, bring it over to the back of the pool? Was that even discussed during planning? And you refused that?
No, the planning commission discussed what Mr. Bayless offered to bring it back 5 feet but keep it at 6 foot height. They did not vote for that as an alternative. The only alternative, the only compromise
30
that they were
inches out.
willing to entertain is this one.
Hold on.
30 inches
Gotta
off.
catch
the-
up.
This was the only, yes, the other option was discussed to move it just 5 feet back, keep it at 6 feet tall, but they did not entertain that as an option.
They did.
Entertain that,
Okay.
And we cannot entertain it
No.
tonight.
No.
He can come back with another variance request in that regard, and we can entertain it then, but we cannot. So, any other clarifying questions before we vote on this?
Yeah, just real quick, would it have to come back to planning if he so chose?
Yes.
Or would it just come back to us? Just come back to us, right?
Depends on his application. We can't really predict what we're gonna be deciding on until we see it.
Right, I'm just saying if,
So depending on how you vote and what he accepts, if he decides to submit a new variance application, it is the after-the-fact variance fees, the double the fees, plus public hearing costs, and it has to go through the whole process again. Planning Commission, if the Planning Commission approves it, it stops there. If it doesn't, he can appeal to you again. If you vote to approve this, what the Planning Commission alternative was, he still does need to come in and modify his building permit, because the building permit that was issued was only for a 4-foot, not up here, but a 4-foot fence on this side. So he would need to modify his building permit.
Has he already paid an after-the-fact fee?
Yes, he paid.
For the first variance
Why would
request
he-
that was denied, because
why
he's
did he have
applying
to
for a
pay
new application. If he does not accept what you do here tonight, and he wants to submit a new variance application for a new request, it's a new application, all new applications pay the fees again.
Okay, the fee for the application.
Correct, but it's an after-the-fact application because he did the work without a permit. He's not asking for permission before he does it. He built it and then
Right.
is asking for permission.
But hasn't the fee already been applied because he did that?
he's already paid the after the fact, you
He's
only
already-
pay it once, right?
It's still an after-the-fact variance unless the council wants to waive that. I have to follow the
Right,
fee
yeah, I
resolution.
understand.
The fee is not a penalty for what he did. The fee is for all the staff work that went into it. The same staff work will have to be done again if he does something different than what the planning commission has already approved. So,
I got it.
if not, a person could keep coming up with variances, and our staff does hours of work Okay,
Yeah,
it's a fence, I got that.
Yeah, I
but-
understand the variance fee.
Okay, well-
It's the after the fact fee, if they've already done.
It's very well established in many places in our city's website and elsewhere, what you need a permit for.
But this variance would be for a new it'd be for a new location of the fence.
Thank you. I was red.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do
We have a motion. Any other clarifying questions about the motion on the floor?
Who seconded?
Who seconded it, please?
I think I did.
Thank you.
And this is the
Good.
planning
Okay.
commission's option.
Yes, this is the planning commission's option. Should he decide to do it. Call the roll.
Councilman Wiles.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Okay. Resolution 19-22 is a.
We don't have to move to, we have to motion to. Excuse me, Mayor. Do we have to finish this item with the motion to deny the original, the agenda? Or we just? or
We
don't?
already did that. That was our first vote.
Yeah, we're,
By, okay.
Your first vote did.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was just.
his appeal was voted down 3-2.
We voted down the appeal, and then we voted up, allowing the planning commission's option.
No, no, I'm good. Clarification. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Jake. Resolution 19-22 is a resolution of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, designating the property located at 1389 Reed Canal Road in the City of Port Orange as a brownfield area for the purpose of environmental remediation, rehabilitation, and economic development, directing the city clerk to notify the Florida Department of Environmental Protection or said designation, and providing for an effective date. The recommended motion is, because this is a brownfield, it's a slightly different. We're not motioning to approve the resolution. We're motioning to consider the resolution at a duly advertised public meeting, or public hearing on June 18th, 2019.
Motion to consider resolution 19-22.
Second.
At the public hearing on June
Public
18th.
hearing, June 18th.
Okay, we have a motion second. Who's presenting? We haven't seen you in a while.
Penelope Cruz Planning. So I'll go ahead and make a brief presentation. The main public hearing where the vote will be held, like we just heard, will be on June 18th. The subject property is shown here in blue. It's part of this property that was just recently rezoned by the City Council as the Newport Apartments Planned Unit Development in this pink boundary here. The area in green is already been designated a brownfield. So this is the piece that was annexed last year and has been added into this PUD. And so they're just requesting to annex or to create a brownfield designation on that piece as well. Because of the perceived or actual environmental issues associated with the property being used as a construction.
I don't think it's perceived. I think it's actual.
Yes, we all remember it catching on fire. Disposal facility until 1992. So the city's role is basically to process the request, make sure it meets the criteria to be designated as a brownfield. We have done that, to hold the public hearings that are duly noticed to designate it. And once it's designated, any cleanup agreements and any kind of incentives are done through the state. We do take the proposed cleanup agreement in front of the Environmental Advisory Board, which is also our Brownfields Board, and they're kind of involved and review how that cleanup is going throughout the process. But the state is the main actor at this point once it gets designated, and all the incentives that were listed there are state incentives. It's not city funds. So. If you have any questions, the applicant is here as well.
Any questions of Penny before we hear from the applicant? There being none, as the applicant approaches, take a look at your watch. That's a hint. Brevity is appreciated.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Jeff Brock, 444 Seabreeze Boulevard, Daytona Beach, Florida, on behalf of the applicant, and I'm just here to answer any questions that you might have. How brief is that?
Yeah, not bad for an attorney. Any questions of council? Any questions? I think it's pretty straightforward. There being none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back to us. Any other questions of staff or any other comments? Call the roll on the resolution.
Councilman Wiles.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Tremont.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. 5-0. The agenda online is a little bit different to navigate.
I don't like this at all, Jake.
ADA compliant.
Yeah.
You can download it and.
I have to go through 4 pages, what was on 1 before. That's Ordinance number 2019-18 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, rezoning property consisting of approximately plus or minus 0.34 acres from Volusia County R5 Single Family Residential to NP Neighborhood Preservation located 119 House Street, authorizing revision of the official zoning atlas and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2019-18.
Second.
My green light was off. Do I have to do that
It's me
again?
again. Penelope Cruz Planning. As most people in the community are aware, unfortunately, the American Legion post had fire damage that destroyed the building. They were looking to rebuild the building. It still had county zoning on it, so this is an administrative rezoning to apply a city zoning that would allow that reconstruction to be done. The NP zoning district is consistent with the future land use element, the adjacent properties. It allows for clubs, lodges, and fraternal organizations to be built if they existed prior to 2015. This has been here since 2000, and it would be built in the same setbacks as the existing building that was there before. So with that, if you have any questions, I know the applicant's here as well.
And this was a very, very difficult thing to see happen, and I'm just going to throw it out there one more time. If anybody wants to help with the American Legion's reconstruction fund, I'm sure that they'd be more than willing to take that help. This was heartbreaking to hear about this fire. Questions, concerns, council?
No questions or concern. I'm happy to see this before us. I remember touring it with our boys over there and seeing just the devastating damage it was. What a horrendous fire that was. So glad this is here.
Anyone else care to speak to this? Come on up.
My name is Bob McLaughlin. I'm the Adjutant Finance Officer of American Legion Post 270. I have 4 or 5 of our members, the auxiliary as well. We have 600 members. I didn't think we'd have enough room in the chambers to get them all in here.
We'd have tried. We'd have really tried.
Briefly, we've been in existence since 1949, way before me. Not my birth date, but the time in Port Orange. And we currently were in the building since about 2000 or 2001, I think, that currently burned down in January. It was an electrical fire. I want to thank Councilman Tremont, whom I contacted, I think, probably about a day and a half after the fire, and who then put me in touch with Tim Berman, who has been very, very helpful, and his staff, to working with us to get this zoning changed, and also to help us rebuild on that same site. As you all know, it was a residential from the county and went over to the city. And we are hopefully at that point now to which the P&Z board has agreed. I went to that meeting 2 or 3 weeks ago, and obviously would like your support to continue with the zoning change to neighborhood preservation. We should be keeping pretty much the same footprint. It's a little bit, it's larger as regards to footprint, which we needed.
Yes.
Purely for elbow room, if nothing else, and to become ADA compliant, which we are not because of the age of the building, where we couldn't get a wheelchair into the bathroom, just couldn't physically do it. So we'd like to bring it up into the 21st century, et cetera. And thank you for your comment about, yes, we would be more than happy to accept donations. It is a very expensive project, we found out, but we are anticipating doing it. We've already hired a contractor, we've already hired the architect, et cetera, and we're looking to move forward and get bigger and better than we are. We'd like your support. Thank you.
And if somebody wanted to send you a check, where would they send it?
Payable to American Legion, Post 270, Post Office Box 238071, Port Orange 32123.
So you said Post Office Box 238071
Port Orange 32123. It's in the Allendale office.
in the little post office?
Yes.
All
yes,
right.
Yes. Yeah.
So did I say the Post Office Box number was 238071 for the American Legion? Post number what?
270.
270? Have I said that enough times? I
Yes,
hope.
sir. I appreciate it.
Anybody watching at home?
Very muchly so.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to be at the ribbon cutting.
You
the
will be
opening.
there.
Cannot wait.
We will all be there.
You bet.
Yeah. With any luck, hopefully, optimistically, maybe St. Patty's Day
All right.
of 2020, hopefully.
Very good.
Again, thank you for your support.
Thanks, Bob. Anyone else care to speak to this? There being none, back to council. Final comments? There being none, call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. 5-0. And that's Post Office Box 238071. Zip code's 32123.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
For Post 270 of the American Legion.
Yes, sir.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that brings us to the regular agenda portion of our meeting, discussion on Palmer College bond issue.
Good evening. My name is Tom Tiemeyer. I am the treasurer of Palmer College Chiropractic. I have brought with me today, I introduce Dr. Peter Martin, who is our president of the Port Orange campus, and Jennifer Randazzo, who is our vice chancellor for finance for the college as well. In the interest of time, I would be prepared to do an abbreviated version of what I've shared with you individually earlier today, but we're here at your pleasure, and we can do it as quickly or as lengthy as is
Abbreviated
possible.
Version, more like a summary?
A summary could be, if that's fine.
Why don't we do a summary and allow council to ask any
Sure.
questions if necessary?
Well, I'm here basically to brief the city council and about the fact that of an agenda item that will be coming up in the next two meetings of the city council in regards to a restructuring and refinancing of existing bonds that the college has worked with the city of Port Orange that were established back in 2010. And that is important for us in regards to doing some things on our main campus back in Davenport in connection with some funding and financing that we have to do up there. So let's see if I can do this right. So a little bit of the history between the College of Port Orange, what our request is going to be, an overview of a little bit of the facilities plan we have, the impact on the Port Orange campus, our little financing plan just as an indicator of how we intend to do not only improvements on our main campus, but our campus and Port Orange. And then some answers to maybe some questions about the financing. A little bit on the history. Whoops, what did I do? The history between the college and the city of Port Orange has gone back to the early 2000s. It's been a great partnership between the city and the college. It has been benefits back and forth between us and the city. We've brought obviously students and jobs to the community, as well as from our standpoint is providing an opportunity to provide our educational process to the city and to the state. As I indicated, that there has been similar financing deals. The last one started was in 2010. That was for $27 million plus that the city was utilized as a conduit issuer of debt that the college paid back, or is paying back. Right. So our request basically is to take the outstanding balance of the existing bonds, which is about $18.2 million, and restructure that and refinance that note, basically extending the current maturity date of the bonds from December 1st, 2030 to March 1st, 2037. This allows the college to have the ability to minimize its impact on its debt service when we incur some new debt for the Iowa campus, and that will allow us to have resources as we prepare for expansion needs down here at Port Orange in the future, in the next 3 to 5 years. Not to get into the planning processes, but we've had some modernization issues on campus in Davenport, and as a result of that planning process, it also led us to do some planning process for the growth of the Port Orange campus as well, and we're in the middle of doing that right now with some recommendations that will be going to our Board of Trustees this coming June. The impact. We knew that in the current site that we have on the City Parkway campus here, we have some additional space that we can put buildings on. And it's always been planned as we grew that the potential was there to put some additional facilities on those things. And so we're trying to facilitate some future growth of enrollment. And we're going to be providing our Board of Trustees this summer or this fall with a report on where we want to go. And it probably, the initial expansion will necessitate a 4th building on this campus. Mm-hmm. And I also, at this point, would like to point out again, that relationship that we've had with the city and how it's been beneficial for both sides. Back in 2010 or 11, when we did the bond issue previously, we were adding a 3rd building on our campus at the time, utilizing some of the funding mechanisms through this conduit issuance of these bonds. And we did an economic impact study at that time when our enrollment was around 750 students. It's now 850 students, 100 more students than 8 years ago. And the economic impact to the community was estimated through a process that is standardized by the American College systems type that utilize this. And our economic impact to the city of Port Orange was $122.2 million. And so, I mean, and again, that should be larger now as our enrollment grows. That includes the salaries that we're paying our staff and our faculty, 130 some odd jobs, our 850 students, and the dollars that they bring to the table and living in the community, besides paying their tuition. So it is a very positive relationship that we've had. And again, this is a request that allows us to plan for the future growth, not immediately for the Port Orange campus, but in the next 3 to 5 years. So those results will be more faculty offices, more classrooms, more laboratory space to accommodate some growth in our enrollment and at this point in time. And we anticipate that demand for attending school down here in our system is going to be there. And right now we're putting a dollar amount out there of about $10 million as an initial investment in an additional building on this campus. And I guess as we continue the planning processes, those numbers and size of that building will be refined as we go. This is kind of an oversight view of where that building would go on the current site. It's right down the street here. It would go on the north side of what is informally known or formally known as our retention pond. It's this building kind of in the orange, and right now it's kind of proposed to be a size of around 35,000 square feet. So that's kind of the oversight view. Here would be a ground level view of what that building would look like on the north side of the retention pond with all our other buildings on the east side, and it would be designed to kind of mirror image the buildings that are currently there. So this is kind of a little bit of the financing plan we put together. I want to emphasize there's no additional new debt that's required to do any work that we're intending to do in the Palmer, Florida campus in the Port Orange site. There is additional financing that we're requesting in light of what we're doing in the Davenport campus. And we're looking at, again, at least as maybe as early as a year or two out. It could be as late as at the end of this time frame, which is maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years out. So this is a model that indicates to our Board of Trustees that we can accomplish these capital improvements that we wish within the structure of what we're trying to do with financing and additional other resources that the college has. So there may be some questions about the financing, and we want to make clear to the community, the City Council, that there be no impact, no one held responsible for any of this debt. This is a debt between the college and our banking partner, and we're utilizing the methodology of a conduit and an issuer, the city, to reduce our interest expense as we go forward. This is not new debt. This is just a refinancing of the outstanding balance of the existing debt. It does differ from city obligations. It's an obligation of Palmer College, not the city. And again, why would you obviously approve this request? Obviously, to get our best interest rate, we have to use a tax-exempt entity, of which the city is, to get that conduit issuance tax-exempt interest rate. Doesn't impact the city's bond issue. It's not payable by any resources of the city. And this is a kind of a common practice with cities around the country about providing some incentives in regards to keeping a relationship and development within the city development plan. This debt will not be shown up as an obligation of the city. It will show up as a footnote. It already is there in the city's financial statements. And it's simply that footnote will be updated. And lastly, in summary, again, this is just a strategic action on the college's part in order to minimize our annual debt service to our budget as we make some improvements in the Davenport campus, and it allows us then to move forward with our planning and future expansion needs down here at the Port Orange campus. We're intending to pay all the legal costs and the issuance costs for the city in relationship to this. So, and there'll be bond documents provided, information within those bond documents, indemnification language that protects the city from any liability to make any payments on these bonds. And again, as a reminder, the first hearing of this approval process will be on the June 4th agenda, and then the second will be on the June 28th, and then hopefully the closing of these bonds will be done in late June of 2019. So, any questions that I could answer?
Scott, Drew? Yep. Chase, anything? Jackie, good? Yeah, I'm good.
I hope it was brief, but not too brief. Thank you very much.
That's always the key. It's like you got to impart the information, regardless of the time of night.
All right, thank you.
Anyone care to speak or make comments on this? Come on up, Robert. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. I know you had to make concessions to Palmer College in order to get them to come here, but I think it's time to pull back from that. They're here, they're established. They can if they decide to refinance it. I think the burden should be just on them, and I think the city should stay out of it. I think it's time to pull out. If you do go with it, I would certainly recommend that you couple it with them buying the green facility over there, so that that would get you out of that mess too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jake, this is coming back to us for consideration on June 4th, our next regular meeting. Okay. Any other comments? There being none. On to first reading of ordinance number 2019-19. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. Sorry, I have to open up 3 web pages instead of 1 to get to it now. Ordinance number 2019-19 is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Florida, amending Chapter 30 of the City of Port Orange Code of Ordinances to establish new Article 3 relating to the funding of fire protection services, facilities, and programs throughout the incorporating areas of Port Orange, Florida, authorizing the imposition and collection of fire protection assessments against real property, providing for definitions and findings, establishing procedure for imposing fire protection assessments, authorizing the imposition of interim assessments, providing that assessments constitute a lien on assessed property upon adoption of the assessment roll, describing the procedures for administering the fire protection assessments from year to year and for correcting errors and omissions, providing for collections of the assessments, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2019-19.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor with a second. Mr. Rosen.
Good evening, Alan Rosen, Assistant City Manager. Council, this is an ordinance that allows the city to collect a fire service fee. As I've been kind of talking with you guys throughout the year or
Allows
so.
but does not obligate.
That is correct. There's nothing in the ordinance that talks about a specific fee in terms of an amount. It just kind of lays out the process for which a city would collect a fire service fee. So by approving this on first and second reading, it allows the city to do that, not just this year if you decide not to do it this year, but any year in the future. It's a cost we've already incurred to do and complete. And once in the system, it's there, and it's one less thing you have to do, whether this year or 10 years into the future, if you decide you want to implement it at that time.
Mayor, we've also talked a little bit offline and a little bit online about diversifying our revenue stream. We heard from the public, our half-cent sales tax, that they're not interested in a tax increase, but I still think it's important that we investigate this as we try to diversify our revenue stream any way we can moving forward, whether we utilize it this year, next year, or in future years.
I still have very mixed emotions about whether I even want to do it this year or not, but even if I did, I still think about there are 1,100 homes out there that pay nothing, that utilize our services. Even if I got $25 a year from them, I just from a fairness standpoint, I would feel it better if they paid, because I'm paying taxes to support them. I think everybody should pay something. I don't know what that number is, and I'm not fond of property tax system, but to begin with, but it is the system we have. It's the only thing we can have and can control. But for my standpoint, it is a very inequitable system, but it's the only one we have. Council, comments or questions?
I really don't have enough information to make, a decision on this, because I think, it's one thing to get, you got businesses, you've got residents, and I think this fire fee would obviously affect both.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the size of the business, could be equivalent to 20 houses. You take a Walmart or something, I know there's more risk there and it'd be more work by the fire department, but like I say, I'd have to see the numbers broken down before I would feel comfortable voting in favor of something like this.
That's not where we are.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not what we're voting on. We're voting on giving us the availability to do so. Because
Yeah, I
my
understand.
thing is, if I were to pass something like this, I would want it to be revenue neutral. I would be looking to, whatever we did with a fire fee, I'd be looking to reduce in ad valorem because of the problem that you just addressed, but that's not what we're doing tonight. Basically, what we're doing is allowing us to have the ordinance in place if at such point in time we decided to entertain being able to do it.
I'd still need all the information before I'd want to vote in favor of an ordinance to allow it.
What information do you need? We're prepared to give it to you this evening.
I'm not in a state of mind right now to
Copy.
digest
It
this
is- it
tonight
is late.
at 10 o'clock.
Got it.
Comments or questions?
I do believe we're on a time schedule on this.
Yeah, we're on a time schedule on this. Obviously, for an ordinance, you could pass it whenever. If there is thought of still pursuing a thought of collecting something this coming year, there are other steps in the process that we do kind of need to know about and move forward with just to still continue to consider it. If I don't have information on whether or not it could even enter the mind to consider it for this coming year, I kind of have to stop the process of everything else going on. So that's
And I'll
separate
be
and
honest
apart
with
from
you, from
this.
my standpoint, I don't have real strong feelings about doing it this year.
Mhm.
What I want to do is keep the tool in the toolbox, because there's always that question of equity. Why is everybody else paying more when you got 1,100 homes paying nothing? And I want us to at least have the tool in the toolbox so we can kick that question around a little bit. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'd
Drew?
I'd agree with you, Dom. This will retain our ability to implement it in the future, whether it be this year, next year, the year out, or whatever. But I definitely want to have the ability to consider it and be able to do it if it's something we choose down the road.
Well, that's a different conversation, and I
Yeah.
do want to have that conversation at some point. Scott, you
No,
haven't chimed in.
I agree. I think that it's the prudent thing to do to make sure that if there's a option that exists for the benefit of our community as a whole, that we always maintain that option and have it and make it available. Because the reality of it is that we may find out that it's not an option that we want to pursue, but we also may find out that there's a reason to pursue the option, and it may benefit even businesses to a greater extent, and also create more of an equitable cost share for some of the most expensive services that a city is obligated to be able to provide. So, we've all learned recently, none of us know what the future holds, but I think the more options that we have to consider as the city grows and moves forward, the better that is for our residents holistically. So I do think it's something worth definitely having in our toolbox.
Would anyone care to speak to the item? There being none, back to us. Final comments? Call the roll.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Okay. 3-2. Item 24, use of First Step funding. Hold on just a second. I got to open up this one too. The recommended motion is to approve the use of $35,000 previously provided to the First Step Shelter for their use for capital spending with no expectations of additional funding from Port Orange through at least the first year of operations, subject to the city manager's receipt and execution of a written agreement.
Also move the motion just to put it on the floor.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Discussion, council?
I can, we can end this conversation pretty quick. This came at a time when there was very little clarity as to how how we're going to furnish, the FFE furnishing fixtures and equipment to get the shelter operating and running, getting all the stuff we needed in there. But I don't think that we need to set a precedent. I think we've made our commitment early to allow our funds to be used as operating only. I think we ought to stick with that, just to get rid of any confusion whatsoever. I don't think we need it anyway as a shelter, and I'll provide that in the update later on. But just to keep this one pretty quick, I don't think we need to allow it to be used anything other than operating. That's my recommendation as a First Step board member.
Motion's on the floor. Chase's comment is he's recommending against it. Any other comments or questions, council? Would anyone here care to speak to the item? Final comments?
And it's not a slight against, not wanting to be helpful to the shelter. I just don't think we need the latitude on the board.
Let me ask you this. If we vote no, and for some reason the shelter board, something happens and we need to come back to reconsider it, wouldn't it be better if we just withdraw the motion and then consider it then?
I think that'd be fine. I could withdraw my motion. Table it as needed.
Is the second withdrawn?
Yes.
We have no motion on the floor. Is there any substitute motion? There being none, dies for lack of motion. City manager evaluation debrief. Has everybody had an opportunity to set individual meetings with the manager to discuss his evaluation that I'm sure that everybody's got completed?
No. Got it completed, but I haven't sat in with him yet. We talked briefly, but not in great detail.
And I've sat down with Councilman Bastian,
Okay.
Yes, I have met
And he
with
has-
him and completed the evaluation.
and he has filled out the evaluation.
Well, I've completed it, but we have not met yet. Scott, you need to set a time with him?
No, but we will be meeting shortly.
Okay.
Yeah.
It will not be tonight.
I'll set my time with the manager soon.
Very good.
If he's not still coughing.
Comments, city attorney?
Mayor and council members. Mayor and council members. We have one item just to receive any questions with regard to how you may wish to proceed with the city attorney's evaluation. I do have a response for you as to the last year's events, the challenges, perhaps the weaknesses, the things that wish we could have done differently, those kind of things, as well as an overview of what the area city salaries are going, their going rates, and an evaluation form should you choose to utilize it. If there are other things or information you'd like to have as a part of your consideration, please let me know. You can let me know tonight as we speak, or give me an email, give me a call. I'll be getting everything I have currently ready to go out to you tomorrow, but if there's something else, we can always add in. We started some of the meetings already, and we'll continue to meet with each of the council members, so y'all gonna be real busy meeting.
Alrighty.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Jack?
Can I get back, can I jump back in for a second?
You betcha. It depends on whether your light is green.
It will be. There we go. I guess my question is regarding the evaluations. We give those to the city manager, or to you give them to the city manager, however we want to go with this, because I think one of them said, have the mayor sign off, which is, fine. The only question I have is, when do we actually collectively evaluate the city manager and the city attorney and look at not only performance but a salary adjustment? Because I think that's critical.
Okay, well, and let's walk through this a little bit procedurally.
Yeah.
Each of us needs to meet with them individually, because I think this is the unique situation where they both have 5 bosses, not just one.
Right.
After that's been completed, I don't want your evaluation. I don't want to sign off on it. I don't want any chance of so much as a sunshine violation of seeing it before we've had a chance to speak to it publicly.
Yeah.
You can hold on to that. You will need to turn it over to Jamie Miller so that they can put it in their personnel files, or you can give it to Robin, who will give it to Jamie to make sure it's filed properly. But the question of when we would discuss it publicly is as soon as we can get it agended.
It was agended
Has it been agended? For
tonight.
So we need to re-agenda it again for June 4th.
Mayor, currently we have the city attorney scheduled for June 4th as well, pending your meeting
Sounds like a
capabilities.
wonderful evening. We've had one tonight. Okay.
And I'm not sure everybody's aware of it, but, I was going back trying to, and the reason I asked about the salary portion of it
Mm-hmm.
is because I was going back trying to, I had to dig through some records and get some answers to some questions, because I always like, number one, timely reviews for your folks. Let them know that, you want to either tell them they're doing good or bad or whatever, and do that on a regular basis in a timely fashion, at least annually, right? And then the other part of it is, from a salary standpoint, where are we to our peer group with not only the city manager and city attorney, but our other folks. I mean, we're not talking about them tonight, but they're certainly important, obviously. But also, what have we done in the past as far as increases? What's been the precedent, and how does that compare to our peer managers, if you will, in the city, or city attorneys? And my records show, just for most of you, for information purposes, I think he's been here 4 years and had one increase of 5.3%.
You're correct.
Okay, so just want to put things in perspective, and then also you've got access to information in terms of what peers managers are making, you know, in the other municipalities. So just want to bring that to the forefront as we consider this.
And
next week.
I think that that is very relevant. I think if we went with the policy of that the manager and the attorney get the same raises every year that we get, then we wouldn't have managers and attorneys for very long. But aside from that, we have to be realistic and mindful, not just of performance, but of budget as well. Any other comments or questions?
No, it's good.
Okay. Thanks, Jack.
Yes, sir.
Good questions. City manager comments.
None this evening.
Thank you. City council committee reports, First Step Shelter.
I'll be as brief as I possibly can, because we certainly had a lot happen this week. And I think a very positive corner turned. I like to tell, you know, my players, when your back's against a wall, knock the dang wall down. And I think we did that this past week or yesterday, or whenever our last meeting was. I think it was yesterday. Holy goodness.
Funny
been
how
a
it
long
blends
day today,
together
yeah.
after a while.
But we made some very crucial policy decisions, and we adjusted our expectations based on our budget. You know, we've been operating with the understanding of a $1.6 million operating budget business plan that was provided to us by Catholic Charities. But the fact is, we only have about $1 million. So we've asked Catholic Charities to bring us back a business plan with what we have. We always ask people to live within their means, and this is how much we have, so what can you do with that? And they'll come back to us. It'll obviously lead to a more limited capacity because we don't have the funding at this point to have the full capacity that we want, but actually turns out to be a better thing. Catholic Charities actually recommends that we start out small before ramping up. It will not be a reduction of services, but rather a reduction of capacity and who we're able to provide the service. Still be the same service, but probably more like between 50 and 60 to 65 beds. But it also includes a safe zone on the property, which I have been adamantly opposed to having for the sake of effectiveness and really accomplishing the mission of getting people off their feet. Last thing you want to do is integrate them with the population that are not looking to get better. So if you have them on the same campus, the chances of interaction are much larger. However, without a safe zone, we would have to allow just anybody come into the facility in order to be Pottinger compliant. And without the compliancy, the cities aren't going to want to be involved in it as it is. I can't speak for all of them, but that seems to be the general feeling. So we're accomplishing everything with allowing it come as you are. But if you're not willing to participate in the programming, the required programming, then you'll not be let inside the walls. There'll be an outside place for you. I still hate that, but at the very least, we do have some sort of control. You still search and still background checked, even to get in the safe zone. There's always a fear that becomes a tent city. That's just what we're going to be stuck with now in order to still be in compliance. So we're in a good position, believe it or not. It's the first time I've been extremely optimistic about the project in and of itself. And, you know, at the city of Daytona, you know, with all due respect to them, I think they've turned the corner a little bit, been better communication even within the past, 72 hours. Getting the lease that we've been asking for 6 months, and some use of their $400,000 to purchase capital funding to furnish the place if need be. Also, scaling back the kitchen, which was an enormous cost. You know, the county council has brought up the idea of having the jail serve, contracting out with the jail to serve the food, which would need a more limited appliances in the kitchen. That will save a lot of cost and divert that cost from this that the city of Daytona is going to be fronting anyway, and that can defer to a lot of the capital expenses that the board was looking to do and needing to do. That they were asking the cities for. So that's why I tabled that earlier. So I think we're in a good place right now as a board, and everybody is very well in sync. I think I mentioned the other day, I think this board is the best thing going for First Step. But we have a lot of work to do going forward. But I think we have a good footprint at this point right now.
I want to thank you for carrying a very large bucket of water for this council and the community and representing us on that board.
My pleasure. I enjoy it. Thank you.
Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce. Tomorrow night is the Tasteful Affair, their annual event. Tickets are still available. Membership in the chamber is still up above 600 members. They are always looking to add, but that was a very good, positive number to hear that it's still a large number and tracking upwards. Roundtable of elected officials did not meet in May. We will meet again in June. That leaves me to one final announcement. Monday, May 27th, is Memorial Day. We have a wonderful ceremony, 10 a.m. at Memorial Park just across the lake, and I would like to invite anyone and everyone. The weather will be beautiful, at least for that hour of the day. I can't tell you what the rest of the day is going to be like, but there's a lot of time for barbecuing, a lot of time for family, a lot of time for beaching later in the day. 10 o'clock in the morning doesn't take away from your ability to enjoy your families and the like that day, if you so wish, to spend half hour, 45 minutes memorializing those which Lincoln said gave the last full measure of devotion for our freedom. So hopefully we'll see as many people there Monday morning as we can. 10 a.m. Memorial Day.
Scott, you're usually in charge of bringing the weather, so you're good to go. You're there, right?
Nice try. Anything else come before us this evening? If not, have a good night.